Chapter 845. Soon afterward, the events from a few days ago replayed in their heads like a movie, allowing them to return to their senses in a single instance. The heavenly enchantress' face immediately became filled with shame and anger. At that moment, she had no idea where the strength came from. She pushed Jian-shun far away from her and immediately climbed up from the ground. When she saw her naked body and the specks of blood on her lower body that were completely exposed to the sunlight, her eyes immediately became misty. She was filled with grievance and grief. The heavenly enchantress endured her grief and immediately took out a new set of purple clothes from her space ring. She wore it with lightning speed as she stared at Jian-shun viciously. Her eyes became more and more moist as she became filled with grief and misery. Jian-shun took out a set of white clothes from his space ring and put it on in a hurry. He became dazed as he stared at the heavenly enchantress' indescribable beauty. He had never seen such a beautiful woman before. It could be said that the heavenly enchantress was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her beauty had already surpassed the fairies in the heavens. She was just so perfect. However, he also understood that this was not the time to admire the heavenly enchantress' beauty. He explained in a hurry, "Heavenly enchantress, I hope you can understand that I had no other choice back then. Otherwise, both of us would have died. Only by doing that could we have survived." "Shut up." The heavenly enchantress interrupted Jian-shun. She stared at Jian-shun furiously and furiously said, "You bastard, you beast that takes advantage of me. You actually used such a despicable method to possess my body. I will never forgive you. I'll kill myself once I kill you." The heavenly enchantress was a woman who was gentle on the outside, but tough on the inside. She seemed gentle and quiet on the surface, but she was extremely unyielding. She definitely could not endure being violated like that. The zither of the demonic cry appeared in the heavenly enchantress' hand. She placed it in the air and began to rapidly play it. Every time she gently plucked a string, a powerful sound wave would shoot toward Jian-shun. Jian-shun would not just stand there and let the attacks hit him. The heavenly enchantress was stronger than him in the first place. So even with the toughness of his chaotic body, he did not dare to take on the sound wave attack so easily. He immediately turned into a blur as he rapidly moved, dodging the attack. "Heavenly enchantress, calm down. Why must you be so stubborn? You know that I had no other choice in the situation back then," Jian-shun explained as he dodged in an attempt to convince the heavenly enchantress. The heavenly enchantress' eyes recovered their usual coldness. She rapidly plucked the zither and strum after strum shot toward Jian-shun with killing intent. The sound waves became denser and denser, blotting out the sky. Gradually, they formed a cage, sealing off all of Jian-shun's escape routes. A gleam of light flickered through Jian-shun's eyes. Chaotic force circulated through his body as he pushed the power of the chaotic body to its limits. Afterward, he directly punched out and created an opening. He used the illusory flash to escape. However, Jian-shun was unable to remain unscathed against the dense sound waves. He was struck by a few of them. Strangely, when the sound waves struck Jian-shun, they actually turned into energy that silently entered Jian-shun's body. Afterwards, they were assimilated by chaotic force and converted into his own power. Jian-shun immediately became surprised when he sensed the changes in his body. The light in his eyes flickered a few times before he stopped dodging. He stood where he was and allowed the sound waves to strike him. The sound waves surged toward Jian-shun like moths to a flame, but without any exception, none of the sound waves were able to harm Jian-shun at all. They all fused with Jian-shun as soon as they came into contact with his body. They were assimilated by chaotic force and converted into his own power. However, this amount of energy was far too little for Jian-shun. It made no difference to him at all. What's going on? Jian-shun was filled with doubt. He had no idea what had happened to his body that allowed him to absorb the heavenly enchantress music. How is this possible? The heavenly enchantress was shocked when she saw that her sound waves were unable to harm Jian-shun. She changed the tune and cried out, "Soul-devouring demon." The demonic Devour Soul was one of the more powerful tunes the heavenly enchantress knew. She used the music to confuse the minds of people, causing their souls to wither away unknowingly and disperse into the surroundings. It was a terrifying tune that could kill without anyone noticing. It was impossible to guard against. The gentle tune rang out in the surroundings. The music seemed to be filled with some sort of magic, calming everything down at that moment. Even a gentle breeze in the surroundings stopped. Jianshun stood 30 meters away as he listened to the heavenly enchantress music. He was filled with surprise and doubt. He could obviously sense the killing intent hidden in the music, but he did not find it strange at all when he heard it. It was as if the heavenly enchantress music could not affect him at all. It was unable to harm him at all. Very soon, the demonic soul-devouring song reached the halfway mark. The heavenly enchantress immediately became shocked when she saw that Jianshun was completely unscathed. Disbelief filled her face. The heavenly enchantress had stopped playing when the demonic soul-devouring song came to an end. She stared at Jianshun blankly, struggling to accept what had happened. Impossible. This is impossible. Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Why can't my music affect you? The heavenly enchantress became rather dejected. Not only had Jianshun taken her virginity, but he was also immune to her music as well. It was impossible for her to take revenge. She refused to accept this. The heavenly enchantress refused to give up. She played the zither again, but no matter what she did, she was unable to pose any threat to Jianshun. Jianshun really did seem to be immune to her music. Impossible. Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Why is it like this? The heavenly enchantress shook her head. The tears in her eyes became denser and denser, turning into 2 crystalline tears in the end that rolled down her beautiful face. She was miserable. What's going on? Jianshun found it extremely strange that he was immune to the heavenly enchantress music. He had no idea what had happened to him. Master, you had intercourse 3 days ago, so yin and yang were harmonized. At the same time, you absorbed the energy from the harmonized yin and yang, which caused some changes to your bodies. If the 2 of you fight now, it'll be equivalent to supreme yang force encountering supreme yin force. It'll be immediately neutralized, so neither of you will be able to harm the other, Zing explained to Jianshun. This was the first time Jianshun had heard something like this, so he found it extremely novel. However, it just happened to resolve his doubts. He then looked at the sorrowful heavenly enchantress nearby, and his expression became extremely mixed. It was definitely unexpected that something like this would happen between him and the heavenly enchantress, but he had no choice back then because he wanted to continue living. Even if he could turn back time, he would still do it. Sigh. Jianshun gently sighed inside and sat down where he was. He knew that the heavenly enchantress needed some time to calm down, so he did not disturb her. He was unable to find a good way to resolve this matter. All he could do was let nature take its course and let it develop. He was not stupid enough to talk about taking responsibility. The heavenly enchantress was a hermit saint ruler, not a virgin from a commoner's family. She could not be measured by worldly matters. After calming down, Jianshun immediately checked his body. He discovered that his soul had actually become several times stronger. It was extremely powerful now. If his soul had been a finger-sized flame in the past, it was now an abnormally bright light bulb. It shone with a dazzling light. This was a change in quality far greater than the increase in quantity. With the growth of his soul, the senses of his soul had increased as well. It was just a pity that the senses of his soul were suppressed here, so he was unable to spread them out. Otherwise, he really would have liked to test just how much his soul had grown. Afterward, Jianshun began to inspect his dantian. He was immediately overjoyed by what he saw. The chaotic Niden in his dantian had grown from the size of an egg to the size of a fist. It had almost reached the peak of the first layer of the chaotic body. Jianshun was overjoyed by the growth of his chaotic Niden. At the same time, he was secretly surprised by the strength of his supreme yin force and supreme yang force. He had never thought that he would benefit so much in just a few short days after absorbing the balanced energy of yin and yang. Ignoring the benefits of his soul, just the growth of his chaotic Niden was equivalent to 3 years of effort from Jianshun. At the same time, it had saved him a vast number of high-class monster cores, which made Jianxun extremely excited. My chaotic force has already reached the peak of the first layer. I just need to find some time to enter seclusion, and I'll be able to break through to the second layer. Jianxun was eager. He was tempted to immediately enter seclusion to break through. Jianxun opened his eyes and looked at the heavenly enchantress. He said, "Heavenly enchantress, we may have paid a price this time, but we've also benefited greatly. After absorbing the balanced yin and yang qi, we've benefited greatly. Check your body. Your strength must have increased by a lot." The heavenly enchantress had gradually calmed down now. Her expression did not change at all when she heard Jianxun's words. She closed her eyes doubtfully and silently sensed the changes in her body. A few seconds later, the heavenly enchantress' eyes suddenly snapped open. Undisguised surprise filled her eyes, but her face became pained very soon. She gently bit her lip and became gloomy. Although her strength had increased by a lot like what Jianxun had said, she would rather not increase her strength than pay the price. Chapter 846. Jianxun nervously paid attention to the changes in the heavenly enchantress expression. Seeing how the heavenly enchantress did not do anything drastic, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Heavenly enchantress, let's go check up ahead and see if we can find a way back." The heavenly enchantress sat on the ground in low spirits, as if she had not heard what Jianxun had said at all. She did not respond at all. Jianxun gently sighed. He lowered his head in thought for a while before standing up. He gazed at the place where the yin-yang qi had appeared a few days ago and said, "Don't you want to know what it is that has harmed us? If you want to know the answer, then come with me." With that, Jianxun no longer paid any attention to the heavenly enchantress. He turned around and walked away. The heavenly enchantress slowly raised her head. She stared at Jianxun's figure with mixed feelings as he walked away. She gently bit her lip and hesitated before slowly standing up and making her way toward Jianxun in the end. Jianxun and the heavenly enchantress maintained a distance of 30 meters as they advanced. Very soon, they arrived before a 1,000-meter-wide pit. This was where the black and white pillars of light had appeared 3 days ago. Jianxun was in no hurry to enter the pit as he stood at the edge. He glared at the very center of the pit. He could already vaguely sense an extremely obscure pulse of energy there. The energy was so powerful that it shocked him. The heavenly enchantress also made her way over from behind. Even though the wound in her heart still existed, she had already calmed down. She covered her face with a veil again as she stood 3 meters away from Jianxun. Her eyes were still filled with some sorrow as she stared at the very depths of the pit. Clearly, she had also sensed the extremely obscure pulse of energy. "Master, it's here. The yin-yang qi is coming from here." Ziying's voice rang out in Jianxun's head. "We can expand the senses of our souls here." "Master, go down and take a look," Qing So also said in Jianxun's head. His voice was filled with urgency. Jianxun became stern. Strands of chaotic force surged out from his chaotic Niden, filling every corner of his body. He pushed the defense of his chaotic force to the limit. He then turned his head to the heavenly enchantress and said, "I want to go down and take a look. Follow behind me." The heavenly enchantress remained silent. Jianxun no longer hesitated. He directly jumped into the pit and slowly slid toward the bottom with his feet. He was filled with caution. The heavenly enchantress followed closely after Jianxun. She followed behind Jianxun and slowly slid down. She was unfamiliar with everything here, so she was unable to find the way out. Jianxun seemed to know many secrets as well, so she could only leave if she followed by Jianxun's side. Jianxun and the heavenly enchantress arrived at the bottom of the pit very soon. It was a flat area with a diameter of 100 meters. 2 balls of light, one black and one white, silently hovered 2 meters above the ground in the center of the flat area. This is Yin-Yang Saint Rock. I never thought that the yin-yang qi here would be so powerful that it would condense in a yin-yang saint rock. The 2 sword spirits, Ziying and Qing So, appeared above Jianxun's head. The 2 of them stared at the 2 balls of light in shock. Jianshin and the heavenly enchantress also looked at the Yinyang Saint Rock and studied it curiously. Jianshin stared at the rock in interest. He hesitated slightly before slowly making his way over. However, just when Jianshin was 50 meters away from the rock, a white figure silently appeared and blocked his path. It blocked Jianshin's path. The sudden appearance of the white figure surprised Jianshin. Without any hesitation, he used the illusory flash. After leaving behind an afterimage, he retreated 20 meters with lightning-like speed. He stared at the white figure cautiously. Only now did Jianshin see the appearance of the white figure. He was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s. The middle-aged man's resolute face still retained the handsomeness of his youth. He possessed an extraordinary bearing, and his seemingly indifferent eyes were filled with an aura that seemed to look down on the world. It was as if he was the sole ruler of the world, as if he was the god of the world. However, his body was rather illusory. He did not possess a physical body. With the appearance of the middle-aged man, an indescribable pressure immediately permeated the surroundings. At that moment, the entire world seemed to have fallen silent. Even time had stopped. Jianshin and the heavenly enchantress immediately felt like they were immobilized. Not only that, they could not even sense the existence of their bodies. It felt like their souls had been separated from their bodies, splitting them into two parts. Jianshin and the heavenly enchantress were shocked. Just the pressure from the middle-aged man was enough to make them feel like their souls had been separated from their bodies. This made them deeply shocked and frightened by the middle-aged man's strength. The Holy Emperor. This thought appeared in the minds of Jianshin and the heavenly enchantress at the same time. This was because the Holy Emperor, a ninth heavenly layer expert, would never be able to make them feel so shocked. Only the legendary Holy Emperor would be able to make them feel so shocked. The middle-aged man hovered 3 meters above the ground. He stared at the sword spirits above Jianshin's head as some surprise appeared in his eyes. The sword spirits also stared at the middle-aged man at the same time. They were extremely stern. After staring at each other for a while, Ziying asked, "Who are you? Did you cast down the 8 trigrams maze formation outside?" Surprise flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes once again. He said, "I never thought that you two spirits would actually recognize the 8 trigrams maze formation. Impressive, impressive. Looks like it's all because of you that these 2 weak people can make it here." With that, the pressure in the surroundings suddenly vanished. Jianshin and the heavenly enchantress regained control over their bodies. They stared at the middle-aged man in shock. They had been stunned by his strength. Jianshin felt like he had seen the middle-aged man before as he stared at him. He felt like he had seen him somewhere before. "Who are you? Why do you know the 8 trigrams maze formation?" This time, it was Qing Suo who asked. She stared at the middle-aged man sternly. As soon as Qing Suo finished speaking, Jianshin seemed to think of something. His face immediately changed drastically. He stared at the middle-aged man in shock and cried out, "You're the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyan." Jianshin was familiar with Mo Tianyan's appearance. He had seen him more than once in Mercenary City. The middle-aged man just happened to be the same as the statue of Mo Tianyan. The heavenly enchantress also became surprised when she heard Jianshin's words. She stared at the middle-aged man's appearance and immediately felt her head rumble. The man's appearance was exactly the same as the huge statue in Mercenary City. Mo Tianyan. Are you really Senior Mo Tianyan? The heavenly enchantress could not help but cry out. There were rumors on the Tian Yuan continent that Mo Tianyan had died long ago, yet this legendary figure had actually appeared before her like a miracle. The heavenly enchantress found this very hard to believe. The middle-aged man looked at Jianshin and the heavenly enchantress. A sliver of melancholy appeared on his face. He sighed emotionally. "You must be from the Tian Yuan continent. I never thought that after so many years, I would still be able to see people from the Tian Yuan continent. I originally thought that people from the Tian Yuan continent would never be able to come here." "Senior Mo Tianyan, is it really you?" For some reason, Jianshin was pleasantly surprised. He had been doubtful before, but he was certain now. He was the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyan. Mo Tianyun was the protector of the Tianyuan continent. In ancient times, when the Tianyuan continent was invaded by the 100 races, the humans were forced to retreat time and time again. At a crucial moment, Mo Tianyun appeared out of nowhere and repelled the 100 races all by himself, saving all the humans on the Tianyuan continent. This was why the Tianyuan continent had its current peace. Although Jianshan had never seen Mo Tianyun before, he was still born on the Tianyuan continent. As a result, he felt great admiration and respect for Mo Tianyun, who had saved the entire continent. He could not help but become rather excited when he saw this legendary figure. What's the current situation on the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent? Mo Tianyun asked Jianshan and the Heavenly Queen. Jianshan explained the situation on the Tianyuan continent, including the reappearance of the winged tiger and the invasion of the Beast God continent. He believed that since Mo Tianyun had ordered the people of Mercenary City to not become enemies with the winged tiger, he definitely would not do anything that would harm the winged tiger. When the heavenly enchantress heard about the winged tiger, a sliver of surprise flashed through her eyes. She coldly glanced at Jianshan and immediately guessed that the white tiger that had carried her through Dragon Island was the winged tiger. Mo Tianyun's expression became rather mixed when he heard about the winged tiger. He said, "Let me see it." Jianshan knew that Mo Tianyun was talking about the winged tiger. Without any hesitation, he immediately released Xiao Bai, who had shrunk to the size of a cat, from the artifact space. However, Xiao Bai was currently sleeping and digesting the medicinal effects, so he had yet to awaken. Senior, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, has once analyzed that if the winged tiger ends up in the hands of the Beast God continent, it's extremely likely that the ruler of the Beast God continent will forcefully possess the winged tiger's body, allowing it to enter the Beast God Hall and obtain its legacy, Jianshan said. Mo Tianyun gently sighed. Its growth will definitely be somewhat difficult. I'm only left with a sliver of my soul to guard this place, to prevent anything from happening. So I can't leave this place. I can't exist for too long either. Because you've awakened me this time, this sliver of my soul will disperse soon. Its future path can only be walked by itself. I won't be able to directly assist it. Jianshan sighed inside when he heard that. He was dejected. Mo Tianyun looked at the sword spirits and said, "If I've seen correctly, you should be the sword spirits of the sword sect of Violet Heavens, the ultimate treasure of the 9 great sects, the Azulite swords." Mo Tianyun's words caused the sword spirits to tremble. They stared at Mo Tianyun in shock and cried out at the same time, "Who are you?" P.S. Many of the cables have been cut off. I don't know if someone has been stealing them or selling them for money, but they've cut off a large portion of our network. It's only been reconnected this afternoon, and the network has returned to normal. Chapter 847. Mo Tianyun's face was filled with melancholy. He said the battle back then was devastating and all 10 god artifacts were destroyed. It's rumored that even the Azulite swords of the sword sect of Violet Heavens, the strongest of the 9 great sects, were destroyed due to the failure of the fusion. The sword shattered and the sword spirits perished. I never thought that I would be able to see the sword spirits again today. It really does surprise me. Sword spirits, there's no need for you to ask who I am. I know what happened back then, but I wasn't born in that era. As a result, even if I tell you who I am, you probably won't know who I am. Which world do you come from? Ziying asked with a heavy voice. Mo Tianyun's eyes revealed a look of reminiscence. Then he faced the sky and let out a long sigh. His expression became extremely complicated. There was both nostalgia and hatred. There was also a trace of indescribable sadness mixed in them. Whatever. It's all in the past. There's no point in bringing it up. Mo Tianyun said softly. His face was filled with loneliness, but he recovered very quickly. He became stern again and said to the sword spirits, "It's rumored that the Azulite swords were originally born from a sliver of energy separated from Yin and Yang Qi, and they were obtained by the second sect master of the sword sect of Violet Heavens. He used his great abilities to gather many supreme grade materials in the world to refine them. Am I right?" "That's right. You're right," said Ziying. Mo Tianyun continued. Since you two sword spirits were born from yin and yang qi, you must be familiar with the item behind me." Ziying and Qing Suo both looked at the yin-yang saint rock behind Mo Tianyan. Ziying said, "This is a yin-yang saint rock condensed from yin and yang qi. May I ask how you obtained it?" Mo Tianyan began to recall the past. He said, "The yin-yang saint rock fell from outer space and landed on Dragon Island. Fortunately, there are records of it in my memories. When I recognized it back then, I didn't dare to touch it carelessly. I was afraid that the yin and yang qi hidden inside would explode and lead to a calamity. As a result, I cast down the 8 trigrams maze formation at the bottom of the cave, using the formation to connect space and create a bridge to outer space. I used the bridge to carefully send the yin-yang saint master into outer space, far away from Dragon Island. This space is where I placed the yin-yang saint rock back then. It's just that after so many years, the yin and yang qi that leaked out from the yin-yang saint rock from time to time changed the laws of the world and created everything in the world. It has already formed an independent space in the original space, just like the world you see right now." Mo Tianyan's words had an extremely great impact on Jianxin and the Heavenly Enchantress. The two of them felt like they were dreaming. It was just so unbelievable that the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyan, could actually create a bridge to outer space through formations. This ability was just far too powerful, so powerful that the two of them found it hard to believe. Jianxin and the Heavenly Enchantress subconsciously raised their heads to look at the vast world around them. They struggled to believe that this space was actually created by the yin-yang saint rock. Mo Tianyan's figure became even more illusionary. He said, "The yin-yang saint rock hides an evil presence. The rock is still growing, so it's as weak as a newborn baby. It's very easy for it to be affected by the evil presence. When I took the rock into outer space back then, I really wanted to destroy it before it completely matured by sacrificing a sliver of my soul. However, the consequences of the eruption of the yin and yang qi were just too severe. As a result, I didn't do that in a hurry after some consideration. Instead, I left a sliver of my soul to guard this place, hoping that the rock could destroy the evil presence. If the yin-yang saint rock fails and is defeated by the evil presence, this sliver of my soul will disturb the balance of the yin and yang qi regardless of the cost, and cause the rock to erupt." Back then, I never would have thought that I would actually come across sword spirits born from yin and yang qi so many years later. Since you've appeared now, you must have a better way to deal with the problem of the yin-yang saint rock. "I can completely stop worrying now," Jianxin said with a smile. "This sliver of my soul can only manifest once. There's not much time left. Sword spirits, I'll leave the yin-yang saint rock to you." Mo Tianyan's figure became fainter and fainter. The sliver of his soul had existed for far too long. It had always been slumbering, so it could not last much longer. Manifesting this time wasted a lot of the power of his soul, so it ended the days of his soul dissipating prematurely. Senior Mo Tianyan, the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, misses you very much. I wonder if Senior knows the origins of this beast fur and how we should leave this place in the end. Jianxin took out the mysterious beast fur from his space ring and asked 3 questions in a row. Mo Tianyan stared at the beast fur in Jianxin's hand for a while and said, "There are a total of 18 beast furs. Once you collect them all, you can use the power of your soul to fuse them together. At that time, you'll naturally learn their secrets, but you'll need the power of a soul at the level of the Holy Emperor to do that." As for Xiaoling, when I used my ability to unlock her intelligence back then, there were some unexpected circumstances that prevented her intelligence from fully taking shape. Although I managed to make her emerge unscathed in the end through my efforts, I also left behind an irreparable sequela. As a result, her intelligence will forever remain at the level of a 5-year-old child. She will never have the opportunity to grow. No matter how many trials she has to go through, she will never be able to mature. Xiaoling is a child who will never grow up. I hope you can treat her well in the future. Before I left, I passed on a cultivation method to her. If she cultivates diligently, she'll be able to regain her freedom once she completes her mission. Since the sword spirits have chosen to follow you, your future accomplishments will definitely be extraordinary. I can already sense the presence of chaotic force within you. It's extremely weak and impure, but if you cultivate diligently, you'll definitely attain a true chaotic body in the future. If that's the case, I could tell you a few secrets about the Tian Yuan continent. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress said nothing. They quietly listened to Mo Tianyan. The two of them understood many secrets from Mo Tianyan's words. These secrets were not even recorded in the ancient records of the Protector clans or Mercenary City. Mo Tianyun continued. In the depths of the Tian Yuan continent, there's an unknown spatial crack. The crack connects to another space, and a group of extremely powerful people live there. They call themselves the Forsaken Saints, and the world they live in is called the World of Forsaken Saints. When I discovered the World of Forsaken Saints in the past, I went there alone to investigate. Afterwards, the experts of the foreign world discovered my true identity and engaged in a great battle with me. I could not bear to kill them, so I heavily injured them, but I did not take their lives. However, after a while, the experts of the World of Forsaken Saints discovered the situation on the Tian Yuan continent through the spatial crack and began to gather people. They planned on invading the Tian Yuan continent. The World of Forsaken Saints was very powerful. Even when the Tian Yuan continent worked together with the Beast God continent, the Sea Race, and the 100 Races, they were not the World of Forsaken Saints' opponent. I could not bear to see the World of Forsaken Saints invade the continent, so I engaged in a great battle with the experts of the World of Forsaken Saints all by myself. I killed all the peak experts of the World of Forsaken Saints in that battle and heavily injured the World of Forsaken Saints. Afterward, I retreated from the World of Forsaken Saints and sealed up the spatial crack. I used the energy of the earth to create Mercenary City and suppress the seal. Afterward, I discovered the essence of the earth by accident and awakened its intelligence beforehand so that it could protect Mercenary City. Senior, is the essence of the earth the barrier spirit Shaoling? Jianshan asked. Correct, that's correct. Many people believe that Shaoling's existence is due to the barrier I cast down in the past, but that's not the case. Shaoling is not a barrier spirit at all. She's just a ball of energy nurtured by the essence of the earth. However, she can control the barrier like it's her own arm, Mo Tianyun explained. Looks like the seal I heard from Shaoling last time is the seal that seals the entrance to the World of Forsaken Saints, Jianshan thought. Mo Tianyun's words had resolved many of his questions. Jianshan thought inside. The seal I cast down in the World of Forsaken Saints was very powerful, but there will be a time when it runs out of energy. And after so many years, who knows how much energy the World of Forsaken Saints has recovered. The peak experts of that world might be attacking the seal at all times, which will only increase the consumption of the seal's power. If the seal breaks in the future, you'll have to fend off the invasion of the World of Forsaken Saints, Mo Tianyun said. The heavenly enchantress sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed herself down. She looked at Mo Tianyun politely and said, Esteemed Senior Mo Tianyun, may I ask what the exact strength of the World of Forsaken Saints is and how much more powerful they are compared to our Tian Yuan continent? Mo Tianyun remained silent for a while before replying. I should tell you this so that you can have a rough understanding of the World of Forsaken Saints and make preparations for the future. Mo Tianyun paused before continuing. When I first entered the World of Forsaken Saints, there were over 20 people who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. There were even 3 people who were stronger than him. Mo Tianyun's words were shocking. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress immediately became shocked when they heard that. Their hearts churned, and they were unable to calm down for quite some time. The World of Forsaken Saints had over 20 people who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. The number was like a thunderclap in their heads, causing them to stop thinking. Aside from them, there were 3 people who had reached an even higher level of strength. Did that not mean that the 3 of them had surpassed the Holy Emperor? Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress struggled to accept this. They had originally thought that those who had surpassed the Holy Emperor were the strongest in the world, but they had never thought that there would be even more powerful existences beyond the Holy Emperor. Mo Tianyun's strength had also completely exceeded the understanding of the people of the Tian Yuan continent. In the past, Mo Tianyun had entered the world of Forsaken Saints alone and killed all the peak experts there by himself, including the people who had surpassed the Holy Emperor and 3 who were even stronger. Jinshin could not help but gain a new understanding of Mo Tianyun's strength. Chapter 848. Jinshin and the Heavenly Enchantress were stunned by Mo Tianyun's strength. Only after quite a while did they return to their senses. Their hearts began to thump uncontrollably. A while later, Jinshin sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. He asked bitterly, "Senior Mo Tianyun, the people of the world of Forsaken Saints were already so powerful back then. Although Senior has killed all the peak experts, they might have recovered to their peak condition after so many years. On the other hand, our Tian Yuan continent has disrupted the laws of the world due to the intense battle in ancient times, making it extremely difficult for humans to break through. We're nowhere near as powerful as before. How can we stop the invasion of the world of Forsaken Saints with our current strength? You don't need to worry about that. The disruption of the laws of the world on the Tian Yuan continent is within my expectations, but it's not because of the battle in ancient times. Although the battle in ancient times was intense, it was nowhere near enough to disrupt the laws of the world. It's all because of the existence of the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. As long as the problem with the rock is resolved, the Tian Yuan continent will return to how it was before, Mo Tianyun said. What? It's all because of the Yin-Yang Saint Rock? Jinshin was shocked when he heard that. Basically, all the experts on the Tian Yuan continent, including those who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor, believed that the Tian Yuan continent had been greatly affected by the battle in ancient times. As a result, the laws of the world had been disrupted, making it much more difficult for people to break through. Only now did he understand that all the experts on the Tian Yuan continent were wrong. The main culprit behind the disruption of the laws of the world was not the battle in ancient times, but the existence of the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. Mo Tianyun's figure had become very thin, almost turning into a wisp of smoke, and was about to disappear. The two of you have absorbed the supreme Yin force and supreme Yang force through the method of balancing Yin and Yang. So your bodies and souls have gained some resistance to the supreme Yin force and supreme Yang force. I just happen to know a dual cultivation method, so I'll pass it on to you today. Once you're strong enough in the future, you can come here again and use the dual cultivation method to absorb the supreme Yin force. Your strength will increase by leaps and bounds. When the world of Forsaken Saints invades in the future, it'll all be up to you. With that, Mo Tianyun extended a finger, and a strand of consciousness shot into the foreheads of Jinshin and the Heavenly Enchantress with lightning-like speed before disappearing. Back then, I built a teleportation formation 100 kilometers to the east. You can use it to leave. If you want to come here again in the future, just use the same method you came in. Remember, you have to deal with the hidden dangers of the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. Mo Tianyun's figure was so thin that it was almost invisible. He stared at the sword spirits and waited for their replies. Don't worry. The Yin-Yang Saint Rock is of great use to both US and Master. We'll definitely deal with it, Ziying swore. Mo Tianyun seemed to have finally fulfilled one of his wishes after hearing Ziying's promise. His illusionary figure finally vanished completely. The sliver of consciousness he had left behind in the past had already dispersed into the surroundings. Jinshin and the Heavenly Enchantress did not sense Mo Tianyun's disappearance. They stood there with their eyes closed as they silently accepted the information in their heads. A while later, the contents of the dual cultivation method were completely imprinted in the depths of their heads. However, when they saw the contents, their faces became strange and became rather awkward. The two of them slowly opened their eyes. Jinshin looked at the Heavenly Enchantress with mixed feelings. Just when he wanted to say something, the Heavenly Enchantress' cold voice beat him to it. You better forget about the method Senior Mo Tianyun passed to you as soon as possible. Don't mention it again in the future. The Heavenly Enchantress' voice was cold and straightforward. She spoke without any hesitation, leaving no room for negotiation. Jianshun rubbed his nose as he became extremely awkward. However, he grumbled inside. Mo Tianyun had not carefully observed his relationship with the heavenly enchantress when he passed on the dual cultivation method. Great! His method was destined to be wasted now. Senior Mo Tianyun. Jianshun clasped his hands. Just when he wanted to ask again, he suddenly discovered that Mo Tianyun had disappeared. Jianshun was stunned before understanding what had happened. He murmured, "Looks like the senses of Senior Mo Tianyun's soul have dispersed." Mo Tianyun is not simple. Z stared at the direction in which Mo Tianyun had disappeared. He was rather stern, but when his gaze landed on the rock, Cinderella, he immediately became excited. "Master, let's go over there quickly. The Yin-Yang Saint Rock will be extremely helpful to us. If we absorb the Yin and Yang Qi inside, not only will Qing Suo and I recover faster, but your chaotic body will also increase by a lot." Jianshun dismissed his emotions and slowly arrived before the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. Although he already knew how precious the rock was, he did not feel happy at all. Instead, he felt extremely heavy. After learning about the existence of the world of forsaken saints from Mo Tianyun, the mysterious and powerful world weighed down on Jianshun like a mountain, suffocating him. The world of forsaken saints had once possessed over 20 experts who had surpassed the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation. There were definitely many more who had surpassed the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation, perhaps even reaching the triple digits. It would be extremely difficult for the Tian Yuan continent to deal with such a great organization. Even if the problem with the Yin-Yang Saint Rock was resolved and the Tian Yuan continent's strength would skyrocket, it would still take a long time for them to grow to a level where they could contend against the world of forsaken saints. Jianshun stared at the rock with shining eyes and said with a deep voice, "We need to resolve the problem with the rock as soon as possible. The sooner we resolve it, the sooner the Tian Yuan continent can recover." Zing, Qing Suo, do you have any good ideas to resolve the problem with the rock? Master, the problem is very simple. We just need to absorb all the Yin and Yang Qi in there, and the rock will completely vanish. However, the Yin and Yang Qi within the rock is extremely powerful, so we can't absorb it with our current strength. If we directly absorb it, Master will immediately explode, said Zing. Even you can't do it? Jianshun asked. Qing Suo shook his head. If we were in our peak condition, we wouldn't care about the rock at all. We'd be able to devour it in a single gulp. However, Zing and I are much weaker now. If we try to absorb it, we won't be absorbing the Yin and Yang Qi. Instead, we'll be assimilated by the Yin and Yang Qi. And it really is, as Mo Tianyun said, there's an evil presence hidden within the rock. We need to eliminate this evil presence. After a moment of silence, Jianshun said with some pity, "Looks like the rock is just a treasure that we can't open right now. If that's the case, we can only come back in the future. Master, although we can't absorb the Yin and Yang Qi in the rock, there's a thin layer of supreme Yin force and supreme Yang force on the outside. These two forces won't pose much of a threat to you anymore, so you can use them for yourself," said Zing. Jianshun's eyes lit up with that. He said, "If that's the case, I'll absorb the Yin and Yang Qi on the outside first and break through to the second layer here." With that, Jianshun looked at the heavenly enchantress and said, "You heard what Zing said, right? Let's cultivate here for a while. This opportunity to drastically increase our strength is hard to come by. We can't miss it so easily." The heavenly enchantress ignored Jianshun. She sat down on the ground and began to absorb the Yin and Yang Qi on the surface of the rock. Jianshun stared at the heavenly enchantress' beautiful face. He could not help but think about the ecstasy he had experienced 3 days ago. His gaze immediately became mixed, and only after a while did he dismiss his thoughts. He sat down on the ground and began to cultivate. The thin layer of supreme Yang force on the rock slowly entered Jianshun's body. Jianshun's body was immediately filled with extremely hot energy, as if a roaring fire was burning his body. However, Jianshun's body was no longer as weak as it was 3 days ago. He had already gained a certain level of immunity to the yang force. Even though the blazing flames of the yang force in his body made him feel extremely uncomfortable, they were no longer able to cause him much harm. Jianshun gritted his teeth as heat rose from his body. He silently endured the unbearable torture as he did his best to refine the strand of supreme yang force that he had absorbed. The energy within the strand of supreme yang force was powerful and pure, but absorbing it all for his own was an extremely difficult task. The yang qi within was extremely domineering. With Jianshun's current strength, he was unable to forcefully absorb it. He could only refine the domineering yang qi bit by bit to absorb it for his own use. The refinement of the supreme yang force was extremely slow. After 2 hours, he had only refined a tenth of the strand of supreme yang force. On the other side, the heavenly enchantress continued to endure the same torture as Jianshun. She radiated with intense coldness as she did her best to refine the strand of supreme yang force that she had absorbed. Ziying could not help but gently sigh when she saw this. Sigh. If we used a dual cultivation method, we would only need a short while to neutralize the domineering yang qi of the supreme yang force. Why would we need to go through so much trouble? Jianshun spent an entire day to refine the first strand of supreme yang force. It turned into a powerful and gentle energy that was absorbed by Jianshun. The energy contained within this beam of yang energy had completely surpassed any Class 7 monster core. Even the combined energy of several Class 7 monster cores could not compare to this beam of yang energy. After absorbing the strand of supreme yang force, the chaotic Niden in Jianshun's Dantian immediately became much more condensed. The fist-sized Niden seemed to grow even larger. It was about to reach its limit. Jianshun did not stop. After refining the first strand of supreme yang force, he immediately absorbed another strand of supreme yang force and continued to refine it. Chapter 849. The surging chaotic force rampaged through Jianshun's body. Jianshun's body seemed to receive a great impact as well. It began to tremble violently before slowly swelling up. It was like an inflating balloon, rapidly expanding. Jianshun calmed himself down and remained calm the entire time. He did not panic at all. The secret technique recorded in the Azulite Sword Codex appeared in his head as he began to attempt to control the chaotic force in his body and circulate it according to the special method recorded in the Azulite Sword Codex. However, things did not go as he wished. The chaotic Niden contained an extremely large amount of chaotic force. Now that the Niden had exploded, the chaotic force immediately broke free from its restraints and began to disobey his orders. It rampaged through Jianshun's body, making it difficult for Jianshun to control it. Jianshun's heart turned cold when he saw this. The power of his soul in his sea of consciousness erupted with all its might, forming a great pressure that entered his body. He used his powerful soul to suppress the uncontrollable chaotic force. With the suppression of his soul, the uncontrollable chaotic force finally stabilized. It was slowly regained under Jianshun's control. After gaining complete control over the chaotic force, Jianshun immediately began to guide the chaotic force through his body according to the secret technique recorded in the Azulite Sword Codex. It moved faster and faster, reaching an unimaginable speed in the end. Under the rapid circulation of chaotic force, Jianshun's chaotic body faced tremendous pressure. It showed signs of collapsing, as if it had reached the limit of what it could endure. His body constantly cracked. As for the chaotic force, it was becoming purer and stronger bit by bit, undergoing a qualitative leap. However, the quantity of the chaotic force was rapidly decreasing as it underwent a compression process. The chaotic force in Jianshun's body became more and more powerful. As the chaotic force decreased, his inflated body slowly returned to its normal state. It returned to its original size very soon. The strengthening of the chaotic force broke the balance between the chaotic force and his body. Jianshun's chaotic body collapsed bit by bit under the impact of the strengthened chaotic force. Whether it was his organs or his meridians, they were all heavily injured. The long-awaited pain struck his body once again, mercilessly tormenting Jinshin's nerves. Jinshin's body trembled even more violently as he ground his teeth. His resolute face was covered in sweat as he endured the excruciating pain. The chaotic body was powerful, but the pain and sweat required to refine it was not something a regular person could endure. When Jinshin had just refined the chaotic body, he had been tormented by heart-wrenching pain even with his willpower. It was so painful that he had even lost the ability to faint. This was more than enough to demonstrate the difficulty of refining the chaotic body. The cultivation system of the fighters on the Tianyuan continent could not compare to it. Now that he had broken through the first layer and was about to reach the second layer, the balance between the chaotic force and the chaotic body had been broken. He had to go through the process of tempering his body again in order to reach a balance with the chaotic force. Only then would he be able to control the strengthened chaotic force with ease. If Jinshin wanted to truly reach the 18th layer of the chaotic body, he would have to go through the process of tempering his body 18 times and suffering 18 times. Only then would he truly reach the apex. Jinshin's clothes had become soaked in sweat. The chaotic force that surged through his body became more and more powerful. As it strengthened, a portion of it fused with his body, strengthening it so that his body could keep up with the growth of the chaotic force. He would not be dragged too far behind. After who knew how long, Jinshin's pain finally vanished. The surging chaotic force in his body had turned from a surging ocean into a small river. It slowly flowed through his body before gathering in his dantian, forming a bean-sized chaotic nidin. The bean-sized chaotic nidin had been compressed from the fist-sized chaotic nidin from before. Although it had shrunk by a lot, the chaotic force within it had become even more powerful. It was a qualitative change. Jinshin's chaotic force had finally broken through the first layer and reached the second layer. Even his chaotic body had become several times stronger. Even though his body shape had not changed at all, his defenses had increased by several times. Jinshin slowly opened his eyes as he sat on the ground. He silently sensed the chaotic nidin within him and could clearly sense the power of the second layer. Uncontainable joy filled his face. The seventh heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. I've reached the seventh heavenly layer of Saint Ruler now. Jinshin was ravished with joy. The second layer of chaotic force had directly increased his strength from the third heavenly layer to the seventh heavenly layer. He had crossed over 4 whole levels of cultivation. Even if I come across the ancestor of the Fire God clan again, I don't have to fear him now. If I use the ruler armament, killing him should be a piece of cake, Jinshin thought. He thought about how the old man of the Fire God clan had forced him to use a large amount of chaotic force to launch a shocking attack in the City of God. The first layer of my chaotic body is equivalent to the third heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. With the ruler armament, I can kill 5th heavenly layer experts. Now that I've reached the 7th heavenly layer, I wonder if I can kill 9th heavenly layer Saint Rulers with the ruler armament, Jinshin thought. According to the current rate of growth of chaotic force, I might be able to break through to Saint Ruler once I reach the 3rd layer and become a supreme expert on par with the Holy Emperor. Jinshin began to look forward to that day, because only those who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor had the right to speak to the Protector clans. This was because the Protector clans had several Holy Emperor experts at the very least. Mere Saint Rulers were nothing in the eyes of these supreme experts who stood at the apex of the continent, so they obviously disdained to speak to Saint Rulers. Jinshin calmed down very soon and dismissed his thoughts. He closed his eyes again and began to absorb the supreme yang energy to cultivate. Although his chaotic force had reached the 2nd layer, his chaotic nidin was just too small. He needed to replenish some chaotic force as soon as possible, so the supreme yang energy in there was the best supplement. He could not waste it. As for the monster cores in the artifact space, no matter how many there would be a day when they would all be used up. In the following days, Jinshin lost track of time and forgot about himself. He cast aside everything and devoted all his attention to cultivation. He only hoped that he could increase his strength in the shortest amount of time possible. However, Jianshan's cultivation slowed down soon after he reached the second layer because he required even more energy to add another strand of chaotic force to his body. The first layer of the chaotic body required a single ruler armament to refine a strand of chaotic force, but the second layer required 10 ruler armaments to refine a strand of chaotic force. It required 10 times more energy than the first layer. After an unknown amount of time, all the supreme yin force and supreme yang force on the surface of the yin-yang saint rock was finally absorbed. Not a single strand was missing. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress roused from their cultivation. They both sensed their strength, and uncontainable joy filled their faces. Clearly, they had benefited quite a lot. Jianshan's chaotic Niden had shrunk from the size of a soybean to the size of a thumb. After waking up, Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress still stared at the rock in the air as if they had not had enough. Just the thin layer of energy on the surface had benefited them so much, so it was possible to imagine just how powerful the energy hidden within the rock was. Jianshan covetously stared at the head-sized rock and sighed inside. He then looked at the heavenly enchantress and said with mixed feelings, "Heavenly enchantress, let's go. The yin-yang saint rock isn't something we can touch with our current strength. Once we're powerful enough, I'll call you over again." The heavenly enchantress glanced at Jianshan and forced herself to remain silent. She turned around and silently made her way out of the pit. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress left the pit at the same time. They found the teleportation formation Mo Tianyun had cast down in the past. The teleportation formation was a small stone hut that could fit 10 people. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all engraved with complicated formations. Jianshan glanced back at the independent world without day and night as he stood before the teleportation formation. His emotions were extremely mixed. He knew that he had gained another unforgettable memory from now on. The heavenly enchantress figure was fated to be deeply imprinted in the depths of his mind. The teleportation formation activated and Jianshan disappeared with the heavenly enchantress with mixed feelings. A streak of white light appeared without any prior signs at the bottom of the lunisolar cave in the Sea of Stars. With a flash, it revealed Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress. The two of them had returned to Dragon Island through the teleportation formation Mo Tianyun had left behind all those years ago. Roar! Perhaps their sudden appearance had alarmed the corpses at the bottom of the lunisolar cave. Immediately, a great roar rang out from all directions. A large number of corpses charged toward the two of them from all directions. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress expressions changed. Although their strength had greatly increased, they had not reached the level of the Holy Emperor's 9th heavenly layer after all. At the same time, there were quite a few Holy Emperor experts among the corpses. If they were surrounded, a bitter battle would be unavoidable. "Let's get out of here," Jianshan called out to the heavenly enchantress from the hole above their heads. He immediately flew up and quickly flew up through the hole. The heavenly enchantress did not hesitate either. She basically left the lunisolar cave at the same time as Jianshan. Chapter 850. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress finally left the cave after killing over a dozen saint ruler corpses along the way. Jianshan sternly stared down as he stood at the edge of the cave. He let out a sigh of relief and sighed and said, "Fortunately, the corpses didn't chase after us, or we would have had to flee in a horrible shape." "Are the corpses at the bottom of the cave unable to leave?" Jianshan pondered for a while before gently shaking his head. He stopped thinking about the problem. He looked around, but he failed to find Ruijin and Blackfish. "I wonder how seniors Ruijin and Blackfish are doing. I hope they're fine," Jianshan murmured. He felt rather worried for the two of them. After all, the two of them had helped him in the past, especially Ruijin. If it were not for his assistance, Jianshan probably would not have been able to obtain so much dragon saliva grass. Jianshan hesitated where he was before looking at the heavenly enchantress. He said, "Heavenly enchantress, we've completed our mission in the Sea of Stars. It's time for us to return." The heavenly enchantress had completely calmed down now. She no longer pursued Jianxun for what he had done to her, but Jianxun could feel that she was becoming colder and colder. When he gave the heavenly enchantress the dragon's saliva grass, he could clearly sense that the heavenly enchantress had developed some goodwill towards him. However, that goodwill had completely vanished now, which made him grumble inside. The heavenly enchantress hugged the simple zither of the demonic cry once again. She seemed to feel uncomfortable as long as she did not hold the zither. She gently plucked the strings with her right hand and turned around with her back to Jianxun. She coldly said, "Remember, completely forget about that matter. You're not allowed to mention it in the future, or I won't hold back." With that, the heavenly enchantress did not wait for Jianxun's reply. She left the ground and flew toward the outskirts of the Sea of Stars at a low altitude. Jianxun sighed inside before bitterly smiling. That memory was unforgettable to him, so if he could forget it, he would never be able to forget it. With a slight movement, Jianxun used the illusory flash and followed the heavenly enchantress. Now that he had found the dragon's saliva grass, he wanted to return to the Sea of Stars to save Changyang Zhu Yunko. Jianxun and the heavenly enchantress left the Sea of Stars. Now that their strength had increased, the mist that enveloped the Sea of Stars posed no threat to them anymore. Easily, as soon as they passed through the mist, the heavenly enchantress immediately turned into a blur and shot off into the distance with unbelievable speed. She vanished in the blink of an eye, leaving behind Jianxun outside the mist. Jianxun helplessly shook his head as he looked in the direction that the heavenly enchantress had disappeared in. He knew that the matter had affected the heavenly enchantress greatly, so he fused with the surrounding space as well, using spatial force to travel. Jianxun returned to Three Saint Island by himself, according to his memories. He directly descended on Three Saint Mountain. Two figures flew over from afar. They were the heavenly enchantress disciples, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. "Young Master Jianxun, you finally returned. You've been gone for 4 years with the Island Master, making us worry for quite a while. We were afraid that something would happen to the Island Master in the Sea of Stars," Xiao Qian said from afar. Her clear voice was as pleasant as the chirping of a skylark. "Oh right, young Master Jianxun, did you and the Island Master come across any danger on your trip to the Sea of Stars? Why was the Island Master's behavior so abnormal when she returned, as if she had become a completely different person?" Xiao Yu asked. Her face was filled with worry and concern. "Why was your Island Master acting so abnormal?" Jianxun asked curiously. The Island Master flew to the back of the mountain to enter seclusion as soon as she returned. She ignored the two of us and refused to answer no matter how we called her. "Young Master Jianxun, you've been with the Island Master for the past few years, so you have to tell us the truth. What happened to the Island Master?" Xiao Qian felt wronged. Towards the end, she immediately became stern. She looked at Jianxun with some threat. Jianxun chuckled. "Your Island Master has benefited greatly from the trip to the Sea of Stars this time. Her strength has increased by quite a lot. As soon as she returned, she went to the back of the mountain to enter seclusion. She must have stabilized her cultivation, so there's no need to worry. Don't disturb your Island Master either." So that's how it is. That's great. That's really great. Master is getting stronger and stronger. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately became excited when they heard Jianxun's words. "All right, young Master Jianxun, have you found the 100,000-year-old dragon saliva grass?" Xiao Yu quickly asked. "Fortunately, I've succeeded. I've found the dragon saliva grass. It should be able to help the ancestors successfully break through to Saint Ruler now," Jianxun said. "Fantastic. That pitiful person can finally become a Saint Ruler. As long as he successfully breaks through, his pain will be reduced by a lot," Xiao Qian said. Her face was filled with joy. "That's right. Because of the seal in his head, he has indeed suffered a lot in the past few years. Even we can't bear to see him suffer. It's all good now. He can finally be free. All right, let's not talk about it anymore. Young Master Jianxun, quickly feed him the dragon saliva grass so that he could be free from his pain sooner." Xiao Yu was extremely happy as well. Her smile was rather pure. Even though Shao Qian and Shao Yu were saint rulers, they had always lived on Three Saint Island that stood aloof from the rest of the world. They rarely left the island, so the two of them still retained a sliver of innocence and kindness. They had not been corrupted by the vile environment of conflict and intrigue on the Tianyuan continent. Jinshen entered Chanyang Zhu Yunkong's cave with Shao Qian and Shao Yu. He saw Chanyang Zhu Yunkong sleeping on the stone bed with his hair disheveled. Shao Yu said, "In order to reduce his pain, we've already used the zither to make him fall asleep. Please wait a moment, young Master Jinshen." With that, Shao Yu looked at Shao Qian and said, "Junior sister, I'll wake him up. You play the zither to soothe him." "Yes, senior sister." Shao Qian immediately sat down. Her slender fingers gently plucked the strings of the zither, producing a gentle melody. Shao Yu placed her fingers on the zither as well, using a unique method to wake up Chanyang Zhu Yunkong. Chanyang Zhu Yunkong slowly sat up on the bed and said with his old voice, "Sigh, just how long have I slept this time?" Jinshen immediately walked over and took out a stalk of dragon saliva grass from his space ring. He said, "Great-grandfather, I've succeeded. I've already found dragon saliva grass over 100,000 years old." Chanyang Zhu Yunkong looked at the half-meter-long stalk of dragon saliva grass in Jinshen's hand and immediately became overjoyed. He extended his trembling hand and accepted the grass. He excitedly murmured, "Dragon saliva grass, dragon saliva grass. This really is dragon grass. Fantastic. The seal in my head can finally be suppressed. I finally have a chance to become a saint ruler." Chanyang Zhu Yunkong carefully held the dragon saliva grass in his hand. Tears flickered in his eyes as he said, "Great-grandson, I never thought that you'd actually be able to bring the dragon saliva grass out of the sea of stars. You must have gone through a lot of danger." Jinshen smiled. "Great-grandfather, haven't I returned safely? Let's not talk about this for now. Use the dragon saliva grass to suppress the seal in your head and break through to Saint Ruler. That way, you'll gain 2,000 more years of life. I'll find a way to undo the seal in your head in the future." Jinshen and Chanyang Zhu Yunkong conversed for a while before leaving the dragon saliva grass behind. He waited for Chanyang Zhu Yunkong to successfully become a saint ruler, while Shao Qian and Shao Yu remained in the cave, playing the soothing melody to assist Chanyang Zhu Yunkong in breaking through. Jinshen sat on a large rock outside the cave. He nervously observed the situation in the cave. He was unable to assist Chanyang Zhu Yunkong in breaking through at all. The only thing he could do was pray inside and guard the cave, preventing anyone from disturbing him. At this moment, Jinshen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He abruptly raised his head and looked into the distance. He saw a figure rapidly approach from afar. His target was the Three Saint Mountains. A saint ruler. Jinshen became rather stern. He thought, "Great-grandfather is in a critical situation. Shao Yu and Shao Qian need to play the soothing melody, so they can't leave. They can't be disturbed at all." Jinshen vanished with a flash. When he reappeared, he was 1,000 meters away. However, he did not stop. Instead, he continued to walk through the air, heading towards the figure that was flying over from afar. Jinshen stopped the person 10 kilometers away from Three Saint Island. He saw that the person was a handsome young man in white robes. He seemed to be around the same age as Jinshen. Jinshen's heart skipped a beat when he saw the person's appearance. He immediately thought of the handsome man who had openly pursued the heavenly enchantress when he had entered the Saint Land from Mercenary City. The young man before him was Bai Shou. Bai Shou was extremely displeased when he was stopped by Jinshen. However, he could also tell that Jinshen was a saint ruler, the same level of cultivation as him. "Sir, who are you?" Bai Shou glared at Jinshen and asked with a heavy voice. His tone was very hostile. "Sir, who I am is not important. It's just that you can't enter the island right now. So please wait outside for a few days." Jinshen clasped his hands at Bai Shou and said indifferently. Hearing this, By the Shoulder's face sank. "Impudent, you dare to block me. King By the Shoulder outside? You must be tired of living. Moreover, I'm old friends with the island master of Three Saint Island. If I want to enter the island, it's not up to a nobody like you to tell me what to do." Get out of my way right now, or don't blame me for being impolite. Jinshin's face sank slightly. He coldly said, Sir, you can't enter the island right now. Please wait here for a few days. A vicious light flickered through Baisho's eyes. He snorted coldly. I've never heard of someone like you on Three Saint Island. Has something happened on the island for you to stop me? Baisho seemed to realize something when he reached there. He immediately stopped wasting his breath on Jinshin and shot past Jinshin, flying toward the island with lightning speed. Jinshin used the illusory flash and arrived before Baisho with extreme speed, leaving behind an afterimage. He stopped Baisho once again and said, Please wait. Chapter 851. Baisho did not waste any more words with Jinshin. He directly threw a punch at Jinshin. The punch was like the wind, producing an ear-piercing sound as it tore through the air. Wherever the punch passed by, it would create a huge force that seemed to compress the space in front of it. Jinshin had already made preparations to fight Baisho. He did not become flustered at all when faced with Baisho's sudden attack. He remained calm and composed. His gaze was cold, and he showed no intentions of dodging. Chaotic force immediately filled every corner of the forest, pushing the second layer of the chaotic body to the limit. He planned on testing the strength of his chaotic force with Baisho's punch. Bang! With a muffled sound, Baisho's steel-like fist struck Jinshin's chest mercilessly. A powerful force erupted, forming a visible shockwave that expanded in all directions. Jinshin violently trembled. He was sent flying several hundred meters uncontrollably by the force of Baisho's punch. However, Jinshin's complexion remained the same as before after taking on Baisho's punch. Clearly, he was not injured at all. Baisho was also sent flying 100 meters away by the force. He felt like he had struck a piece of extremely tough steel when his punch landed on Jinshin's body, causing his arm to become numb. What a tough body! Baisho was secretly shocked. Baisho was secretly shocked as he looked at Jinshin. When he saw that Jinshin's complexion was the same as before, without the slightest injury, he was immediately shocked. Disbelief filled his face. How is this possible? He forcefully took on my punch with his body, yet he's not injured at all. Even the tough bodies of beasts of antiquity are unable to achieve something like that. How'd he do it? Baisho finally became rather stern. He no longer dared to underestimate Jinshin. Several hundred meters away, Jinshin stared at Baisho as he hovered above the surface of the sea. He rubbed his aching chest and asked, What heavenly layer of Saint Ruler are you at? Although Jinshin could sense Baisho's strength with the powerful senses of his soul, he was unable to determine Baisho's current level of strength. 7th Heavenly Layer, Saint Ruler. May I ask what cultivation method you use and why your body is so tough? Do you have some sort of defensive treasure? Baisho asked with a deep voice. He could tell with a single glance that Jinshin was a human and not a magical beast from his presence. He found it very difficult to believe that a human could possess a body as tough as a beast of antiquity. The 7th Heavenly Layer of Saint Ruler is only SOSO. Jinshin secretly rejoiced inside. He was extremely satisfied with the second layer of the chaotic body. It could actually take on an attack from a 7th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler without being injured at all. Even though it was just a casual attack, it was more than enough to prove the strength and terror of the chaotic body. Baisho seemed to feel like his dignity had been severely challenged when he heard Jinshin's words. He immediately became furious and yelled out, Just because your body is tough doesn't mean you're powerful. Since you're bold enough to boast like that, I'll show you my true strength, King Baisho. A surge of energy surged out from BB's body, quickly condensing into a palm-sized sword in his hand. He had already taken out his saint weapon. With a single movement, Baisho charged toward Jinshin with lightning-like speed. He stabbed his sword toward Jinshin with surging energy. Wherever the sword passed, space would not crack, leaving behind a pitch-black crack. This time, Baisho had used his full strength. He did not hold back at all. Jinshin straightened his face and became stern. Strands of chaotic force surged from his Niden and gathered in his right fist. He then threw a punch at Baisho's sword, using his body to take on the attack of a 7th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. You actually dare to take on my saint weapon with your fist? How arrogant, sneered Bai Shou. Bai Shou sneered. Although he knew that Jian Shen's body was very strong, he did not believe that Jian Shen's body could withstand the attack of his saint weapon. That was because his previous punch had only been a probing attack. Now that he had used his full strength, the strength he could erupt with was incomparable to that probing attack. Boom! Jian Shen's fist violently collided with the saint weapon, erupting with a great boom. Tremendous ripples of energy erupted, causing the surrounding space to distort and tremble. At the same time, 100-meter-tall waves surged from the calm sea below them, surging violently. The saint weapon pierced through Jian Shen's chaotic body. The sharp tip of the sword cut through Jian Shen's skin and into his fist, but it was only able to penetrate an inch before being unable to advance any further. Blood flowed from Jian Shen's fist. A droplet of blood fell to the surface of the sea below, dyeing the blue water red in an instant. It spread to a range of 5 kilometers, causing strands of pure and powerful energy to appear in the water. Although he had injured Jian Shen, Bai Shou was not happy at all. His eyes were wide open as he stared at Jian Shen in disbelief. His heart churned. How is this possible? My full-strength attack with my saint weapon only left him with superficial wounds. What kind of body does he have? It's unbelievably tough. While Bai Shou was stunned, Jian Shen had already pulled back his fist. Ignoring the blood on his fist, he threw a punch at Bai Shou with a sharp gust of wind. Bai Shou's face changed slightly, and he immediately raised his saint weapon to block. Jian Shen's fist struck Bai Shou's saint weapon, perfectly displaying the strength of the chaotic body. The punch directly sent Bai Shou flying, and he only stabilized himself after flying over a dozen kilometers. Bai Shou's face immediately became rather pale, and even his right hand that held the saint weapon constantly trembled. Jian Shen did not pursue. He slowly pulled back his fist, and the wound on his fist healed at a visible rate. Even the blood that had flowed out had returned to the wound, returning to his body. In just a few seconds, the wound on Jian Shen's fist had completely healed. Not a single scar remained. It was difficult to imagine that he had been injured before. Sir, please wait here for a few more days. You still can't enter the island. Jian Shen looked at Bai Shou and calmly said. Bai Shou sternly stared at Jian Shen and sternly said, You really are very powerful. With your tough body, it's very difficult for me to heavily injure you, but it's impossible for you to stop me from entering the island. I, Bai Shou, have only just emerged from the sacred grounds of Mercenary City. After a period of secluded cultivation, I've already grasped a Saint-tier battle skill. Since you want to stop me, I'll show you the power of a Saint-tier battle skill. Jian Shen became stern when he heard Bai Shou mention a Saint-tier battle skill. A Saint-tier battle skill that was comparable to a 7th heavenly layer Saint ruler would definitely possess devastating power. Even he was not confident that he could block it. However, Saint-tier battle skills were the most powerful battle skills on the Tian-Yuan continent, so Jian Shen was extremely eager to witness their power. At that moment, Jian Shen felt both fear and anticipation toward Bai Shou's Saint-tier battle skill. A powerful aura radiated from Bai Shou's body, enveloping the entire area. The winds and clouds in the sky changed, and there was a faint rumble of thunder. At this moment, Bai Shou was already in the process of preparing a Saint-tier battle skill. Bai Shou, at this moment, an obscure voice rang out in the surroundings. The voice was filled with a boundless charm, as if it could steal away a person's soul. Bai Shou rejoiced at the sudden voice. He gazed at 3 Saint Island 10 kilometers away and loudly called out, Heavenly Enchantress, are you all right? I'll come to see you. At the same time, Bai Shou stopped using his Saint-tier battle skill. Bai Shou stopped. The Heavenly Enchantress voice rang out from nowhere. It was impossible to tell where she had come from. Bai Shou looked around in bewilderment, a look of shock appearing on his face as he said, Heavenly Demoness, I didn't expect that after not seeing you for a few years, your strength would actually increase again. Now, I can no longer sense your aura. Oh right, Heavenly Enchantress, who is this person? Why is he stopping me from entering the island? Has something happened on the island? After a moment of silence, the Heavenly Enchantress voice rang out again. By show, you can leave. You're not welcome on Three Saint Island. By show panicked when he heard that. He said, Heavenly Enchantress, I've come from so far away to see you. Are you going to turn me away just like that? Soon after, Bai Shou seemed to think of Jinshin. He immediately pointed at Jinshin and furiously said, Heavenly Enchantress, tell me, who is he? Why can he enter the island, but I can't? Am I not even comparable to him in your heart? Bai Shou's thoughts began to run wild, uncontrollably. As soon as he thought about how Jinshin might be living on the island every day and being in close contact with the Heavenly Enchantress, doing some things that he did not know about, he immediately felt intense jealousy and injustice. Heavenly Enchantress, tell me, who is this person? Why have I never heard of his existence before? Why has he appeared on Three Saint Island and stopped me from entering? Why won't he come out to see me? Bai Shou's eyes were completely red. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. He became more and more emotional. In the end, even he felt like he had hit the nail on the head. Bai Shou, my matters are none of your business. Who he is has nothing to do with you. The Heavenly Enchantress' cold voice rang out. Bai Shou began to laugh from extreme anger. It's none of my business. It has nothing to do with me. All right. Since you want me to leave, I won't leave. I must enter Three Saint Island. I swear I won't leave until I see you. Jin Chen's face sank. If he entered Three Saint Island with such emotions, he would definitely cause a great disturbance and disturb his great-grandfather's breakthrough. He could not allow that to happen. If you want to enter the island, you'll have to get past me first. Jinshin blocked Bai Shou's path. Bai Shou said nothing. He fused with the surrounding space and controlled spatial force. He turned into a blurry blur as he flew toward Three Saint Island with lightning speed, passing by Jinshin in a single moment. Jinshin's face drastically changed. He had never thought that Bai Shou would use such a method to enter Three Saint Island. Bai Shou's comprehension of the mysteries of the world was far greater than Jinshin's, so the speed at which he could control spatial force far exceeded Jinshin's. Jinshin was unable to stop him in time. Chapter 852. Jinshin panicked inside as he watched Bai Shou fly toward Three Saint Island. He yelled out, Bai Shou, if you disturb my great-grandfather's breakthrough, I, Jinshin, swear that I'll hunt you down to the ends of the world. However, Bai Shou's head was filled with thoughts of the Heavenly Enchantress, so he completely ignored Jinshin's threat. Not only did he not slow down at all, he even sped up. Ding! At this moment, the gentle sound of a zither rang out in the air. A visible sound wave struck Bai Shou with lightning speed. Heavenly Enchantress, you're actually attacking me. Bai Shou became even more furious. He bellowed out, and surging saint force poured into his saint weapon. He directly swung it at the sound wave. With a loud boom, shoulder-to-shoulder's body was sent flying far away by the violent shockwave. This time, he flew for nearly 10 kilometers before he finally stopped. Heavenly Enchantress, I never thought that you'd become so powerful. Why do you want to stop me? Why? Why can he enter Three Saint Island while I can't? Tell me why. Bai Shou roared out. His jealousy became more and more intense, to the point where he almost lost his head. In Bai Shou's heart, he had already begun to view the Heavenly Enchantress as his partner. Even though he had not obtained her consent, he believed that it was only a matter of time before he married the Heavenly Enchantress with his relentless pursuit and his father's support. Yet now, the Heavenly Enchantress was treating him like this in front of an unfamiliar man, which was difficult for Bai Shou to accept. In particular, the unfamiliar man was also extremely outstanding. Both his appearance and strength were no less than Bai Shou's. Yet the Heavenly Enchantress just happened to treat him extremely intimately. It was unavoidable for Bai Shou to develop some strange thoughts. Bai Shou, we've never met before, so why do I need to explain so much to you? As the island master of Three Saint Island, I have the right to restrict certain people from entering. You can leave. Don't ever come to Three Saint Island again. The Heavenly Enchantress' cold voice rang out from the sky. Her voice was emotionless, without the slightest hint of emotion. A total stranger, what a good total stranger. Heavenly Enchantress, so I, by shoulder to shoulder, only have this kind of position in your heart. Forget it. Since you are not willing, then I will go find my father and have him propose marriage to your father. Bai shoulder to shoulder panted heavily as he prepared to leave. Bai Shou, the celestial enchantress, sighed softly in the air. Afterwards, a violet figure appeared on Three Saint Island. With just a single step, she crossed several kilometers and appeared before Chu Feng. It's useless even if you go find your father. It's useless. The heavenly enchantress wore a veil as she stood 100 meters away with her zither of the demonic cry. She said emotionlessly, "Heavenly enchantress, you've finally come out." Bai Shou rejoiced as he stared at the heavenly enchantress in infatuation. However, he soon became slightly stunned and his face changed drastically. He stared at the heavenly enchantress in disbelief and said with a trembling voice, "Heavenly enchantress, why? Why? You've lost your virginity. No, this is impossible. This is impossible." The heavenly enchantress became gloomy. She glanced at Jianshan nearby, and her eyes were filled with misery and pain. Afterward, she turned around and flew toward Three Saint Island. Only an emotionless voice rang out in Bai Shou's ears. "Shoulder to shoulder, you can leave. From now on, don't bother me anymore." Bai Shou became stunned. He became dejected. He was unable to accept this, nor did he dare to accept this outcome. No! After a long while, Bai Shou roared at the sky. His face was filled with pain. Back then, he still had the appearance of a middle-aged man. Ever since he saw the heavenly enchantress, he had fallen in love with her at first sight. He had used a secret technique to change his appearance from that of a middle-aged man to his current appearance, just to increase his chances of pursuing the heavenly enchantress. Although he had run into countless obstacles in the past few years, he did not give up. He believed that as long as he persisted, he would definitely succeed. Yet now, all his hopes and illusions had shattered. The heavenly enchantress of his heart had actually lost her virginity. He struggled to accept this and felt his heart shatter. Bai Shou's eyes became bloodshot as a powerful killing intent radiated from his body. He stared at Jianshan with hatred and resentment and said through gritted teeth, it's you, it must be you. That person must be you. Bai Shou will tear you to pieces." Bai Shou charged toward Jianshan like a madman and launched a fierce attack at Jianshan. "Bai Shou, it'll be difficult for you to heavily injure me with your strength. I'd like to see how you tear me to pieces," Jianshan said coldly as he fended off Bai Shou's attacks. "I'll kill you." At this moment, Bai Shou was like an enraged lion. With a roar, he immediately retreated and began charging his Saint Tier battle skill again. "Then let me experience the power of a legendary Saint Tier battle skill." "Bai Shou, I'll give you the chance to use it," Jianshan coldly said. A familiar and cold voice rang out in Jianshan's head. The power of a Saint Tier battle skill is not as simple as you imagine it to be. With the strength of a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler, a Saint Tier battle skill is enough to heavily injure a holy emperor at the 2nd heavenly layer or even kill him. What? A Saint Tier battle skill is that powerful? Jianshan was immediately shocked when he heard that. The power of a Saint Tier battle skill had far exceeded his expectations. Without any hesitation, Jianshan immediately charged toward Bai Shou, who was charging his Saint Tier battle skill. He yelled, "Bai Shou, so what if you have a Saint Tier battle skill? I'd like to see how you'll use it." After learning the power of a Saint Tier battle skill, Jianshan gave up on the thought of witnessing it without any hesitation. No matter how arrogant he was, he would not dare to carelessly attempt to use a Saint Tier battle skill that could kill a holy emperor. This was because he understood that even if he did not die from such a powerful Saint Tier battle skill, he would still end up heavily injured. It was not worth it at all. Jianshan arrived before Bai Shou and did not give him any time to charge his Saint Tier battle skill. He directly threw a punch at Bai Shou's chest with lightning-like speed. Spurt! Bai Shou spat out a mouthful of blood and was immediately sent flying. The Saint Tier battle skill that he had been charging was forcefully interrupted. "I'll definitely kill you." Bai Shou was stubborn and determined to kill Jianshan. He forcefully endured the injuries in his body and retreated several kilometers before actually using his Saint Tier battle skill again. This time, The charging speed was much faster than before. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged as a huge black cloud floated above his head. Lightning flashed from time to time as the seawater under his feet flowed backwards, forming a blue waterfall between him and Jinshin. With a grave expression, Jinshin took out the dragon-slaying sword from his space ring and directly stabbed out 3 times. 3 powerful sword chis, emitting a destructive aura that broke through the obstruction of the seawater and shot straight for Baisho. Baisho was in the middle of charging his Saint Tier battle skill and could not divert his attention to block the 3 sword chis. He could only dodge. He dodged 2 of the 3 streaks of sword chi, but the last one pierced through his heart, destroying it. Baisho let out a muffled groan as he raised his Saint Tier battle skill high into the sky. He gritted his teeth and did his best to persevere. He had already reached the final juncture. As long as he persevered a little longer, he would be able to successfully use his Saint Tier battle skill. The originally clear sky became gloomy due to the charging of the Saint Tier battle skill. Dark clouds covered the sky as lightning and thunder rumbled. Fierce winds howled between heaven and earth, and the seawater below churned violently. There was also a vast and boundless pressure slowly being emitted, as if a slumbering ancient beast was slowly waking up. I have to stop him from charging his Saint Tier battle skill as soon as possible. Jinshin's eyes were cold as he charged toward Baisho with the dragon-slaying sword in hand. Boom! Suddenly, a huge bolt of lightning fell from the sky without the slightest warning, accurately striking Jinshin's body. Jinshin's body trembled violently as his skin suddenly became charred black. An incomparably strong electric current rampaged through his body, numbing him and causing him to lose control of his body in an instant. Damn it, this is troublesome. Jinshin cursed in his heart. Right now, his body was stiff and he could no longer move. He could no longer maintain the ability to float and directly fell from the sky, smashing into the boundless sea below. After 2 breaths of time, Jinshin finally recovered from the numbness of the electric current. His body shot out of the sea like a cannonball, shooting toward Baisho with lightning speed. At this moment, Baisho's Saint Tier battle skill was nearing completion. He formed a seal with both hands and said in a deep voice, "Saint Tier battle skill. Great annihilation, ding." Before Baisho could finish speaking, a gentle sound of a zither suddenly rang out. The sound seemed to possess a boundless charm, clearly reaching Baisho's ears. Baisho's eyes immediately became blank. Afterwards, he seemed to lose all his strength, falling into the boundless sea below like Jinshin. Without Baisho's guidance, the Saint Tier battle skill in the sky seemed to lose its source of energy as well. It ran out of energy and began to slowly disperse in the end. The sound of the zither only caused Baisho to lose consciousness temporarily. It would not harm his life. Baisho returned to his senses very quickly after falling into the sea. He immediately broke out of the sea and furiously stared in the direction of 3 Saint Island. He roared out in exasperation, Heavenly Enchantress, how dare you ruin my plans? Why, you're actually still protecting him." Aye. Spurt. Baisho became infuriated as he reached the end of his sentence. He vomited a large mouthful of blood, which turned into a bloody mist in the air. His face had become pale white. "Heavenly Enchantress, I'll be back. Brat, no matter who you are, I'll tear you to pieces." With that, Baisho quickly shot off into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He had suffered an extremely powerful backlash after his Saint Tier battle skill had been interrupted at a critical moment. He was already heavily injured, and coupled with his anger and the shattering of his heart, he was already at the end of his rope. Jinshin sighed deeply as he watched Baisho disappear. He felt extremely helpless inside. He had never thought that he would end up offending a powerful saint ruler for no reason, and the saint ruler seemed to have an extraordinary background as well. I never thought that something like this would happen. Fortunately, the Heavenly Enchantress helped me out in the crucial moment, or I'd be in trouble, Jinshin softly murmured. Chapter 853. The multicolored auspicious clouds emitted a soft and gorgeous brilliance that shrouded the sky and spread out in all directions. The area that it shrouded expanded from the initial 5 kilometers to a radius of 100,000 before it stopped. The gorgeous and soft light shone on the surface of the sea, seemingly dyeing the vast blue sea into a colorful color. It looked as if the whole world was filled with rich colors, like a dreamlike world. Jianshan hovered in the air as he stared at the 5-colored clouds in excitement. He softly murmured, "He broke through. Great-grandfather has successfully broken through. Great-grandfather has finally broken free from the seal in his head and broken through to sainthood." Afterward, Jianshan turned into a faint blur as he flew toward the island with lightning speed. He silently stood guard at the entrance of the cave, watching over his great-grandfather. At this moment, over a dozen figures flickered with a unique glow of elemental energy. They flew over from below 3 Saint Mountain. They were all people who resided on the island and were Heaven Saint Masters. Clearly, they had been alarmed by the rainbow clouds in the sky. Aside from them, over 100 figures flickered at the foot of the mountain. The people who were only Earth Saint Masters and could not fly all leaped through the forest, hurrying toward the mountain. However, whether it was the Heaven Saint Masters flying in the sky or the Earth Saint Masters leaping through the forest, they all stopped as soon as they approached the top of the mountain. They all politely bowed at the peak and said, "The fishermen of 3 Saint Island wish to see the island master and the 2 holy maidens. May I ask what has happened with the strange phenomenon in the sky?" All of them were extremely respectful. In their hearts, the heavenly enchantress and her 2 disciples were godlike existences that could not be offended. This was because 3 Saint Island had only been an ordinary island 1,000 years ago, and the fishermen who lived there were only ordinary people. They had no connection with the Tian Yuan continent at all, living a life cut off from the rest of the world. They did not know how to cultivate it all. Even when experts passed by from time to time, they would not pay any attention to them. However, ever since the heavenly enchantress had come to live in seclusion, the lives of the fishermen had changed. Not only had the heavenly enchantress taught them cultivation methods, but she had also given them pointers on their cultivation. As a result, the fishermen of 3 Saint Island were able to leave behind their ordinary lives and embark on the path of becoming experts. The heavenly enchantress and her 2 disciples naturally became inviolable goddesses in the hearts of the fishermen. As a result, the extremely ordinary island was named 3 Saint Island. With a thought, a transparent barrier suddenly appeared, enveloping the entire mountain peak. He said, "Stand down. There's no need to worry about the phenomenon in the sky." Jinshan's voice was not loud, but was clearly heard by the fishermen. The Heaven Saint Masters all became stunned when they heard that the voice was not familiar. Immediately, a bolder person asked, "May I ask who Senior is?" "You can all stand down. There's no need to worry about the strange phenomenon in the sky." Xiao Qian's voice rang out from the cave and was clearly heard by the fishermen. "Yes, Your Highness." The fishermen finally stood down when they heard Xiao Qian's familiar voice. However, they were all filled with doubt. Clearly, this was the first time they had seen the 5-colored clouds in the sky. At the same time, over 20 elders of the Radiant Saint Master Union sat in a secret room in the City of God. They used a secret technique to search for traces of the Saint artifact. In the 4 years since the Saint artifact had gone missing, they would work together to use a secret technique to search for the Saint artifact's presence across the entire continent every once in a while. They even searched beyond the sea. Although they failed every time, they had no intentions of giving up. The loss of the Saint artifact had been kept a secret by the Union and the 3 Peak clans. Only an extremely small number of people knew about it, but they had all been ordered to keep it a secret by the 3 Peak clans. This was because once the Radiant Saint Master Union was disbanded, it would be the entire empire that would suffer. All of a sudden, the 20 or so elders sitting cross-legged on the ground opened their eyes at the same time. Their expressions were all filled with surprise. "We found it. It's beyond the sea. We found the exact location of Yang Yutian's psychic jade. I never thought that Yang Yutian would still have the psychic jade on him. This is fantastic. We didn't find the presence of the Saint artifact, but we did find the psychic jade. The psychic jade must be where Yang Yutian is. Let's go quickly. Hurry up and contact Elder Jia. Get him to rip open a space gate to the sea and set off with us. We have to retrieve the Saint artifact. The 5-colored auspicious clouds lasted for a full 6 hours before slowly dissipating. After a while, the world returned to a state of tranquility. Ha ha ha! Afterward, a great laugh rang out from a cave on the mountain. Chanyang Zuyunkong walked out excitedly in his white robes. Chanyang Zuyunkong's entire presence had undergone an overwhelming change after breaking through to sainthood. Although he still looked like an old man, his haggard complexion had returned to normal. He was glowing with health and brimming with energy. He seemed like a completely different person compared to his sickly appearance before. I've finally broken through. I never thought that Chanyang Zuyunkong, would become a saint ruler one day, Chanyang Zuyunkong excitedly said. Chanyang Zuyunkong said excitedly. His joy and excitement had reached the point where he felt like he had served a great service. Congratulations on breaking through to sainthood. You won't have to go through such pain in the future. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu walked out of the cave with their zither. They both congratulated Chanyang Zuyunkong with smiles. Great-grandfather, congratulations on breaking through to saint ruler. Jianqin also congratulated Chanyang Zuyunkong. He was also filled with joy after saving Chanyang Zuyunkong's life. It's all thanks to my good grandson. If it weren't for my great-grandson's dragon saliva grass, I probably wouldn't have been able to live past 30 years. Chanyang Zuyunkong sighed emotionally. He looked at Jianqin in joy. Great-grandfather, your problem has been temporarily resolved. May I ask what you plan on doing in the future? Jianqin asked. Chanyang Zuyunkong gradually calmed down when that was mentioned. After a moment of thought, he said, so many years have passed. I wonder what the situation in Chanyang Prefecture is like. I left Chanyang Prefecture in search of a way to break through. Now that I've become a saint ruler, it's time for me to go back and have a look. Xiao Qian stood to one side and said, Chanyang Zuyunkong, my master said that your talent is very great. You can actually cause the mysteries of the world to descend automatically as a 6th cycle heaven saint master. Your cultivation will definitely progress extremely quickly in the future, but you have to remember that the seal in your head has only been temporarily suppressed. It hasn't been completely removed. You can't increase your strength too quickly, or you'll suffer the same pain again in the future. Chanyang Zuyunkong solemnly nodded to express that he understood. He clasped his hands at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Thank you for your care in the past few years. May I ask where the island master is? I want to see her and personally thank her for saving my life. There's no need. Our island master is currently in seclusion. It's just a small matter, so don't disturb her, Xiao Yu said. That's fine. However, I will definitely remember the island master's saving grace. If there's an opportunity in the future, I will definitely repay her generously, Chanyang Zuyunkong said firmly. He then looked at Jianqin and said, Great-grandson, your great-grandfather is worried about Chanyang Prefecture. I want to return to Chanyang Prefecture immediately to take a look. It's best if you come with me. No, great-grandfather. I still have important matters to attend to, so I won't be returning to the Tianyuan continent with you, Jianqin said in a hurry. He did not dare to return to the Tianyuan continent right now. Whatever. Since you have matters to attend to, I'll return first, Chanyang Zuyunkong said before bidding farewell to everyone and leaving by himself. He had already left Chanyang Prefecture for far too long, so he missed the people of Chanyang Prefecture very much. As soon as he recovered, he left in a hurry. With the matter of Chanyang Zuyunkong resolved, there was no need for Jianqin to remain on Three Saint Island. He immediately bid farewell to Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Mrs., I still have matters to attend to, so I won't be able to stay on Three Saint Island for much longer. Farewell. After chatting with Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, Jianqin found where the heavenly enchantress cultivated with the powerful senses of his soul. He directly flew over. The heavenly enchantress cultivated in a cave behind Three Saint Island. The entrance to the cave was tightly shut, blocked by a huge stone door. Jinshin's emotions became rather mixed as he stood before the stone door. After a moment of hesitation, he took out a large pile of dragon saliva grass from his space ring and gently placed it on the ground. He said, "I know these dragon saliva grass will be of great help to you. You need it more than me. I've only kept 10 stalks of dragon saliva grass from the sea of illusory stars. I'll give a rest to you." Jinshin silently left after placing down the dragon saliva grass. He flew off into the distance. The heavenly enchantress did not appear the entire time, nor did she say anything. Jinshin flew out of 3 Sane Island with mixed feelings. Afterward, he expanded the senses of his soul, enveloping a radius of 5,000 kilometers in a single instance. Finally, he found newbies in a deep trench 1,000 kilometers away. Jinshin immediately shot off and arrived above newbies before long. A powerful presence radiated from his body, blotting out the surroundings. Immediately, the calm surface of the sea below him began to churn. Boom! Suddenly, the sea under his feet exploded, and a figure exuding strong golden light rushed out of the sea, accompanied by a vast and majestic aura. Chapter 854. Ha ha ha! Kid Jinshin, you finally come out. If you didn't come out, the great newbies would have gone to the sea of illusory stars to find you. Newbies shone with a dazzling golden light, like a sun. A vast and tremendous energy radiated from his body, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble. Jinshin stared at newbies in interest. He gently smiled. Newbies, looks like you've benefited quite a lot in the past few years of seclusion. I feel like your strength has completely surpassed the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Newbie's golden light slowly receded, revealing his figure. Perhaps because his strength had increased, Newbie's golden robes seemed even more dazzling. It seemed to radiate with a faint golden light. Newbie's was filled with joy. He crossed several hundred meters in a single step and arrived before Jinshin. He directly punched Jinshin's shoulder and chuckled. Jinshin, I really never thought that you would lose your virginity after just a single trip to the sea of illusory stars. Hee, looks like you've benefited quite a lot from your trip to the sea of illusory stars this time. Tell me honestly, did you hook up with that demoness? As a beast of antiquity, Newbie's senses were much more powerful than humans. He could tell with a single glance that there was something wrong with Jinshin. Jinshin purposefully avoided the question and said, Newbies, let's not talk about that for now. Let's talk about you. How is it? You must have benefited quite a lot from your past few years of seclusion. Of course, Newbies excitedly said, I've already absorbed around 70% of the old snake's essence. The essence contains the old snake's comprehension of the mysteries of the world. I've completely fused with it and converted it into my own power. I've reached the peak of class 7 magical beasts now. According to you humans, that's equivalent to the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. As long as I have a little more time, I'll be able to break through and reach class 8 once I absorb the remaining 30% of the old snake's essence. Even though Jinshin was mentally prepared, he still leaped in fright when he heard that. Newbies had actually gone from the 3rd heavenly layer to the 9th heavenly layer in just 4 short years. Even he was dumbfounded by how fast Newbies had progressed. Compared to Newbies, the improvements he had made in the past few years were nothing. Jinshin, I can sense that your strength has increased by a lot as well. Looks like you've profited quite a lot from your trip to the sea of illusory stars this time. Newbies looked at Jinshin meaningfully and snickered mischievously. All right, let's not talk about that for now. Newbies, we've already stayed here for quite some time. I think the people of the Tian Yuan continent will expand their search very soon. So let's leave this place quickly. The sooner we reach the sea race, the sooner we'll be safe, Jinshin said. All right, let's go to the sea race first. If there's still a powerful old snake on the beast god continent, and he calls a large group of people to deal with me, the great Newbies will be in danger. With that, Newbies was stunned. A gleam of light immediately flashed through his eyes as he stared ahead sharply. The space where Newbies looked at began to distort violently. Soon after, it ripped open and a space gate suddenly appeared. An old man in simple clothes stepped out of the space gate. Jinshin's eyes immediately froze the moment he saw the old man. He was familiar with the old man. He was the old man who had wiped the table in the Tower of Radiance. Figures constantly walked out from behind the old man. First, there were cultivators in various robes. There were a total of 8 of them, and every single one of them was a saint ruler. Lastly, there was a group of white-robed Radiant Saint Masters. There were over 20 of them in total, and all of them wore a shining, violet badge on their chests. They were all Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters, including the President and Grand Elder of the Union. The Union had only managed to find Jinshin's whereabouts after so much difficulty. They had basically turned out in full force this time to successfully retrieve the Saint artifact. Yang Yutian, I finally found you. An old voice rang out from the group of people. With that, a white-robed old man walked out from the group. He was the president of the Union. Compared to a few years ago, the president seemed even older. His face was filled with wrinkles, and he was haggard. The matter of the Saint artifact had tormented him quite a lot in the past few years. The president looked at Jinshin with extremely mixed feelings. His heart was filled with bitterness. In the past, when he discovered Jinshin's talent, he had accepted him as his disciple without any hesitation. He planned on choosing between him and Yun Tian to be the successor of the Union. In the following days, Jinshin's performance became more and more outstanding. He had actually grasped the God's Descent as a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master and killed over 30 Heaven Saint Masters in the Fragrance River all by himself. This shocked the president. At the same time, he became even more determined to nurture Jinshin into the future successor of the Union. He had even begun to use his other disciple, Yin Tian, as a chess piece to temper Jinshin. He was filled with hope for Jinshin. However, he had never thought that Jinshin, who he had placed all his hopes on, would have another identity. Moreover, Jinshin had even taken away the Saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union, almost causing the Union to collapse and be doomed. This made him extremely pained. Now that he had seen the disciple he had once placed such high hopes on, the president felt both love and hatred. He loved Jinshin's unprecedented talent, but he hated Jinshin's actions after that, as well as the terrifying consequences of almost causing the Union to be doomed. Yang Yutian, Jinshin, Changyang Shoten, may I ask how I should refer to you now? The president gently sighed. He was exhausted. President, just call me Jinshin, said Jinshin. All right, I'll call you Jinshin. Jinshin, do you have the Saint artifact on you? The president asked. Jinshin hesitated for a while before replying. President, the Saint artifact is indeed on me, but I can't give it to you right now. Yang Yutian, the Saint artifact belongs to Radiant Saint Masters, yet you actually want to take it for yourself. To think that we've treated you so well in the past, yet you've actually done something like this. You've really blinded us. The Ninth Elder could not help but curse. Jinshin, Saint artifacts are extremely important to our Radiant Saint Master Union. Considering how we've treated you well in the past, please return them to us, the Grand Elder said with a pleading tone. Grand Elder, President, it's not that I don't want to return the Saint artifact, but the Saint artifact has a spirit and has already accepted me as its master. What? The Saint artifact has already accepted you as its master? How is that possible? The president paled in fright. Clearly, he knew about the existence of the artifact's spirit. A golden streak of light shot out from Jinshin's forehead and landed in Jinshin's hand. It turned into a palm-sized golden tower. The people from the Radiant Saint Master Union became doubtful when they saw the golden tower. Although Saint artifacts had existed in the Union for countless years, there were not a lot of people who had actually seen them. They did not recognize any of them, including the president. Artifact spirit. Explain it to the president, Jinshin said to the Saint artifact. The artifact spirit obeyed Jinshin's orders. He immediately communicated with the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. The president immediately became respectful. As the president of the Union, he knew extremely well what kind of existence the artifact spirit was. It was equivalent to an expert on par with the Holy Emperor. Even though it was only in the artifact space, it was still a great deterrent. A while later, the president's respect vanished. He sighed at the sky as helplessness filled his face. Afterward, his gaze toward Jianshun became even more mixed. It was filled with deep shock. Grand Elder, President, I know how important the Saint Artifact is to the Union. Without the Saint Artifact, the Union will lose its origin energy, but I can help you deal with this problem. Jianshun took out a violet medallion from his space ring and continued. Grand Elder, this is the medallion you gave me in the past. I've already stored several dozen strands of Radiant Saint Force origin energy in there. It should be enough to deal with the Union's current situation. With that, Jianshun tossed the medallion over. It stopped before the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder caught the medallion and sensed it. A sliver of joy immediately appeared on his face. There really are several dozen strands of origin energy in there. The members of the Union all rejoiced when they heard that. Jianshun continued, I know this is not a long-term solution. There will be a day when the Radiant Saint Force origin energy is used up. However, I will fill up the medallion with origin energy again in 50 years. I hope you can find a few more items that can store origin energy during that time. Jianshun, since the Saint Artifact has already accepted you as its master, you can leave. Our Union won't make things difficult for you. However, I hope that you will come as promised in 50 years and replenish our Radiant Saint Force origin energy, the President sighed. The President of the Radiant Saint Master Union sighed. Since the Saint Artifact had already accepted a master, this was the only choice he could make. If the Saint Artifact had not accepted him as its master, they could still restrict Jianshun's movements and search his space ring for the Saint Artifact. However, that was no longer possible. Once the Saint Artifact had accepted him as its master, they could only kill Jianshun to take it back. However, they did not have the courage to do so. If they killed Jianshun, they would basically have completely offended the protector clans of Chanyang Prefecture and the Pure Heart Pavilion, as well as the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall that even the protector clans feared. Chapter 855. After Jianshun reached an agreement with the people of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the group of people left. They did not make any excessive demands, as they did not want to offend Jianshun too much. Jianshun and newbies left as well after the people of the Union had left. They flew toward the territory of the sea race. The heavy stone door to the back of the mountain on Three Saint Island slowly rose up, revealing a pitch-black cave. With light footsteps, the heavenly enchantress slowly made her way out in a violet dress with a zither in her arms. Arriving before the cave, the heavenly enchantress stared at the several dozen stalks of dragon, saliva, grass lying there in a daze. Her eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Jianshun had obtained the dragon's saliva grass from Ruijin through his connections. Every single stalk was close to 1,000,000 years old, so they were priceless treasures on the Tian-Yuan continent. Jianshun had only kept 10 stalks of such precious dragon saliva grass, leaving the rest for her. This touched the heavenly enchantress deeply once again. A while later, the heavenly enchantress seemed to return to her senses. The zither of the demonic cry disappeared from her hands. She slowly crouched down and extended her slender fingers to carefully collect the stalks of dragon saliva grass on the ground. Afterward, she turned around and entered the cave. Over a dozen fist-sized luminous pearls were embedded in the ceiling of the cave. They shone with a gentle light, illuminating the cave. The heavenly enchantress sat on a huge piece of jade in low spirits. She could not help but think about everything she had gone through in the sea of illusory stars, as well as everything she had gone through in the space created by the Yin-Yang Saint Rock, including what Imo Tianyun had said. Jianshun, you may have possessed my body, but you saved my life at the same time. Should I hate you? The heavenly enchantress softly murmured. She seemed to have lost her soul. When she had first woken up, she had done something impulsive due to her fluctuating emotions. She was tempted to kill Jianshun to vent her anger, but as she gradually calmed down, she gradually understood that Jianshun had no choice back then. If he had not done that, the two of them would have died there, never to see the sun again. Although she had lost the most precious thing to a woman, she had benefited greatly at the same time. After absorbing the energy from the balance of yin and yang and the thin layer of supreme yin force on the surface of the rock, her strength had skyrocketed, reaching a level that she found rather unbelievable. On the afternoon of the second day, a space gate suddenly appeared above 3 Saint Island. Afterwards, a pale-faced Bai and an ordinary-looking middle-aged man stepped out of the space gate. The middle-aged man's eyes were cold and emotionless. He seemed to look down on the world, as if there were extremely few things in the world that could interest him. Shoulder Man stood beside the middle-aged man and yelled at 3 Saint Island, "Heavenly Enchantress, get out here. My father has personally come this time. Is this how you treat your guests? Senior Bai Fei, please forgive this little girl for not coming out to greet you. However, this little girl is currently in seclusion and cannot personally come out to greet you. I hope Senior Bai Fei won't take offense. Little Qian, little you too help me receive Senior Bai Fei." The heavenly demoness voice rang out from the sky. It was impossible to tell where the voice came from, but it seemed to contain a boundless demonic power capable of seducing souls. When the voice entered Bai Shou's ears, a trace of confusion appeared in Bai Shou's eyes, and she almost lost her mind. A gleam of light immediately flashed through Bai Shoulderman's eyes. He said in surprise, "Heavenly Enchantress, I never thought that your strength would increase so quickly. You've actually broken through Saint Ruler and become a holy emperor." "What? Father, what did you say?" "The Heavenly Enchantress has already reached the level of a holy emperor." Bai Shoulderman stared at his father in disbelief as he was filled with shock. "That's right," Bai Fei growled. He also found it very difficult to believe that the Heavenly Enchantress' strength had increased so quickly. Impossible. When we met a few years ago in the sacred land of Mercenary City, the Heavenly Enchantress was the same as me at the 6th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. How has she become a holy emperor in just a few short years? That's impossible. Bai Shoulderman was filled with disbelief. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu flew over from 3 Saint Island. As soon as they heard that their master had reached the level of a holy emperor, they immediately rejoiced. They then politely invited the two of them to have a seat on the island. Bai Shoulderman and Bai Fei hovered in the air without moving. Bai Fei asked with a deep voice, "Where is the person who injured my son? Are you talking about young Master Jinshan?" "Young Master Jinshan has already left. We don't know where he went," Xiao Qian crisply replied. "What did you say? Jinshan?" Bai Fei's expression immediately changed when he heard Jinshan's name. His indifferent eyes immediately shone with interest. He immediately pulled out a portrait from his space ring and said, "Look carefully. Is this the Jinshan you're talking about?" Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu accepted the portrait with some doubt. They looked at it together before nodding at the same time. Xiao Qian said, "That's right. He's young Master Jinshan." "Senior Bai Fei, why do you have a portrait of young Master Jinshan?" Xiao Qian's voice was filled with curiosity. "Don't worry about that. Tell me honestly where Jinshan has gone," Bai Fei sternly said. "We really don't know," Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu said innocently. Seeing how Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu did not seem like they were lying, Bai Fei did not make things difficult for them. He called out, "Bai Fei, let's go." With that, Bai Fei turned around and ripped open a space gate. Afterward, he pulled Bai Fei into the space gate and disappeared without saying anything else. Distance was nothing before Holy Emperor level experts. They could cross millions or even tens of millions of kilometers with a single step. Bai Fei ripped open 2 more space gates and returned to the Tianyuan continent. He immediately found an extremely close friend of his and told him about Jinshan's appearance overseas. Bai Fei's friend was a great elder of the Yuan sect. He had reached the level of the Holy Emperor long ago, so he was immediately shocked when he heard about Jinshan. "Bai Fei, is what you said true? Did Jinshan really appear in the sea?" The great elder of Yuan's sect looked excited. "It's true. I have already received confirmation. He also injured my son," Bai Fei said with certainty. "Yes, the person who injured me is indeed the person in the portrait. They look exactly the same. He is definitely Jinshan." Bai Fei also saw the person in the portrait and said solemnly, "That's great. I'll go inform the other great elders and immediately go to the sea to pursue Jianshun. The great elder of a Yuan school was about to leave. Wait! Bai Yifei stopped the great elder and said, Ling Yuanzi, we only need one of us to deal with Jianshun. There's no need to mobilize so many people. Moreover, if all the great elders of your Yuan sect leave at the same time, it'll unavoidably raise the suspicions of the other protector clans. At that time, it'll be difficult to say who the winged tiger god will end up in. The most important thing is that Jianshun has left 3 Saint Island. I don't know where he is going. If we delay for too long and let him run away, it will be very difficult to find him. If I have mastered a large-scale search secret technique and can't find Jianshun's whereabouts, I would have already captured Jianshun alone and sent him to your Yuan sect. Brother Bai Yifei's words are reasonable. This time, my Yuan sect owes you a big favor. There's no time to lose. Let's set off now. Yuan sect's great elder Ling Yuanzi and Bai Yifei immediately tore space and rushed overseas. Jianshun and newbies controlled spatial force as they hurried through the sky above a vast blue ocean. They turned into faint blurs as they hurried toward the territory of the sea race. According to my inherited memories, the sea race shouldn't be far away from us. They should be several thousand kilometers away, newbies said through a communication technique. Newbies, I already have a rough understanding of the sea race's strength. They are much more powerful than the Tian Yuan continent. Once we get there, we have to be careful. We can't show off too much, or it'll be very difficult for us to survive there, Jianshun warned sternly. I know. You don't need to tell me that. As outsiders, it's unavoidable for us to be ostracized by the sea race. If we don't handle this well, we might even become the public enemy of the sea race. We'll be hunted down by all of them. Newbies also understood the implications. This was the first time he had seen Jianshun so cautious. At this moment, Jianshun's face suddenly changed. With the senses of his soul that had become much more powerful, he could clearly sense an extremely obscure pulse sweep past him and newbies. Oh no, an expert has discovered us. It's either your father or one of the experts from the Tian Yuan continent. Let's move faster, Jianshun said sternly. With that, newbies' face changed as well. He cursed, I think the Radiant Saint Master Union has probably reported this to the 10 Protector clans. Those bastards, they want to use the Protector clans to eliminate you and take back the Saint artifact. Jianshun, your comprehension of the mysteries of the world is far too low. I'll take you with me. Newbies grabbed Jianshun's hand and erupted with his strength as a 9th heavenly layer Saint ruler, without holding back at all. He pushed the mysteries of space to the limit and vanished into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Even though newbies moved very quickly, he was not as fast as the Holy Emperor. The space before them violently distorted and a space gate rapidly formed. Immediately, a tremendous presence radiated from it. The presence compressed the surrounding space, causing it to become viscous. Jianshun and newbies immediately felt like they had sunk into a swamp. Their movements were greatly hindered. Jianshun, I'd like to see where you run off to this time. Chapter 856. The light in newbies' eyes pulsed violently. He quickly glanced past Bai Yifei and the great elder of the Yuan sect. His face became unprecedentedly stern as he growled. To Holy Emperor, Jianshun, you're done for. You can't escape. Jianshun's face became extremely ugly as well. The dragon-slaying sword instantly appeared in his hand as his presence underwent an overwhelming change. He radiated with a surging presence like an unsheathed sword. He was ready to fight to the death. Even though he knew that he was not the opponent of To Holy Emperor, Jianshun would not allow himself to be captured without a fight. Bai Yifei sneered at Jianshun and disdainfully said, Jianshun, you overestimate yourself if you want to fight us as a mere saint ruler. Jianshun, old man, is the great elder of the Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi. The old man does not want to harm you. He hopes that you can hand over the winged tiger. As long as the old man obtains the winged tiger, he will leave immediately. He will not make things difficult for you. Ling Yuanzi also said, hoping to persuade Jianshun to hand over the winged tiger. Jianshun's current status was extremely special. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ling Yuanzi did not want to offend Jianshun. Ignoring the fact that Jianshun was a member of one of the 10 protector clans of Chanyang Prefecture and had a relationship with the Pure Heart Pavilion, most importantly, Jianshun's sister was actually the saintess of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. The Yuan sect was extremely fearful of her. The Arctic Ice Goddess Hall had existed for a very long time. It had already existed for countless years when the 4 experts who had surpassed the Holy Emperor were still alive. It was a powerful organization that even the 10 protector clans feared. Even though it never interfered with anything on the continent, its existence was still a great deterrent. You want me to hand over the winged tiger? That's impossible, Jianshun coldly said, leaving no room for negotiation. Ling Yuanzi's face sank. The old man has already given you a chance. Since you're so obstinate, I can only offend the old man. Ling Yuanzi did not waste any more words. He immediately began to move against Jianshun. The matter of the winged tiger was extremely important. It was related to the lifeline of the continent, so he did not care even if he had to offend the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. Ling Yuanzi reached out and used his great strength as the Holy Emperor to control space. He immediately froze the space around Jianshun, turning it into an extremely tough block of ice. It actually began to creak. Jianshun and newbies were both affected. The two of them were immediately immobilized. Ling Yuanzi was very confident in his own strength. He refused to believe that 2 mere saint rulers could break free from his confinement, even if one of them was a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. The winged tiger is not on you. You must have found a spatial item that can store living things. The winged tiger must be hiding there. If that's the case, let me check your space ring, Ling Yuanzi coldly said. Ling Yuanzi said coldly. He arrived before Jianshun with a single step and extended his hand towards Jianshun's space ring. At this moment, a destructive energy erupted from Jianshun's body. Chaotic force surged around Jianshun, actually breaking free from Ling Yuanzi's confinement. How is this possible? You can actually break free from my confinement with your strength. What is this power? Ling Yuanzi was shocked. He stared at the chaotic force that permeated Jianshun's surroundings in shock. He could sense that the chaotic force was strange and powerful. It was a power he had never seen before. Jianshun did not give Ling Yuanzi any time to react. His ruler armament glowed with dark light as it stabbed toward Ling Yuanzi with a destructive presence. You dare to restrain me, the great newbies. So what if you're Holy Emperor? Today, let me, the great newbies, witness the strength of a human Holy Emperor. Newbies recovered his freedom as well. He immediately bellowed out and threw a punch at Ling Yuanzi with a dazzling golden light. Ling Yuanzi was a Holy Emperor after all. Although he was extremely surprised that the 2 juniors could break free from his confinement, he did not become flustered. With a wave of his hand, tremendous saint force surged out from his body, forming a huge shield in front of him in a single instance. Jianshun's Dragon Slayer and Newbie's fist struck the shield condensed from Ling Yuanzi's saint force and immediately produced a great boom. Violent ripples of energy and terrifying force wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing space to distort and the sea to churn. Jianshun's chaotic force was very unique, but it was not pure after all. It was only equivalent to the strength of a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler. Their attacks landed on Ling Yuanzi's shield, but it did not shake at all. It had firmly withstood their attacks, which were close to their full strength. God damn it. The difference in strength between a saint ruler and a holy emperor is just far too great. With my strength as a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler, I can only deal with a holy emperor at the 1st heavenly layer at most. This old man's strength has far exceeded the 1st heavenly layer of the holy emperor. I can't do anything to him, Newbie said to Jianshun through a communication technique, while he and Jianshun rapidly retreated from the violent ripples of energy. This Ling Yuanzi is far too powerful. We can't injure him even if we work together. Let's go. We need to get to the sea race as quickly as possible. The sea race is protected by a protective barrier, so the Holy Emperor can't get in, Jianshun said to newbies through a communication technique. I'll take you with me. It'll be much faster that way. Nubis did not hesitate at all. He stopped fighting and pulled Jinshan away with him using spatial force, crossing several dozen kilometers in the blink of an eye. You want to leave? Not so easy, Bai Fei sneered. He fused with the surrounding space and took a step, disappearing in a single moment. When he reappeared, he had crossed several dozen kilometers and arrived before Jinshan and Nubis, blocking their path. If the two of you are allowed to escape right under our noses, what will become of our holy emperor's face? Stay. Bai Fei's eyes shone with a cold light. He directly pushed out with his palm, and boundless worldly force surged over, forming an invisible dragon that charged at Jinshan and Nubis. Jinshan and Nubis felt like a sledgehammer had struck their chests. Even with their powerful bodies, they were unable to resist. Nubis immediately coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his face paled. He had been heavily injured. Jinshan, on the other hand, was in a slightly better state than Nubis due to the protection of the gold silk armor. However, it was still not easy for him to recover. His internal organs were shaken up, and his blood churned. Jinshan and Nubis were sent flying far away. They only managed to stabilize themselves after flying over 5 kilometers away. Jinshan, we won't be able to escape. What do we do? Nubis' face was sunken. Jinshan remained silent as the light in his eyes flickered. He then gritted his teeth and yelled out, "The Holy Emperor really is powerful. Nubis and I can't stop you even when we work together, but you're not invincible. Today I, Jinshan, will heavily injure you too, Holy Emperor, with my strength as a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler, or even directly kill you." Ha ha ha! Jinshan, you arrogant and conceited bastard. I'd like to see how you heavily injure too, Holy Emperor, with your strength as a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler. As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Bai Shou could not help but laugh aloud. His gaze toward Jinshan was filled with disdain. Ling Yuanzi also smiled scornfully. "Jinshan, since you're so confident, let's show old man what trump card you have to say such boastful words. Just what abilities can threaten experts at the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor?" Bai Fei also smiled scornfully. His gaze toward Jinshan was filled with mockery. Saint rulers at the 7th heavenly layer could only threaten experts at the 1st or 2nd heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor with saint tier battle skills. Bai Fei and Ling Yuanzi had both reached the 5th heavenly layer, so they did not treat 7th heavenly layer saint rulers with any importance. People like them were as insignificant as ants to them. Jinshan's eyes were filled with determination. He remained silent and stowed the Dragon's lair sword away in his space ring. He formed a seal with his hands, and a strand of radiant saint force origin energy immediately dispersed from his sea of consciousness. It turned into an invisible energy and entered the surroundings, fusing with them. Jinshan formed a strange seal with his hands and slowly closed his eyes. He raised his head high and aimed his forehead at the sky. Suddenly, the light between the heaven and earth began to become brighter. The blue sky was covered by a layer of clouds that came out of nowhere. The clouds were snow-white and emitted a faint white glow, dyeing the heaven and earth into a snow-white world. Even the blue ocean under their feet was completely white. I will use 500 years of my life as the price to use the forbidden technique, God's descent, Jinshan murmured to himself. He immediately felt his life force rapidly drain away, fusing with the god's descent that was still brewing in the sky. Jinshan found it rather difficult to accept losing 500 years of his life force in a single moment. He immediately felt like he had been drained of all his strength. He felt extremely weak. The god's descent that was still brewing in the sky rapidly took shape under the infusion of Jinshan's 500 years of life force. At that moment, the white clouds in the sky began to shine with a dazzling white light. This light completely surpassed the sun, rendering the entire world snow white, drowning out all the scenery. At that moment, the white light seemed to become the only thing in the world. Oh no, he's using the forbidden technique of Radiant Saint Masters, God's Descent. God damn it. How could I have forgotten that Jinshan is also a radiant Saint Master. Ling Yuanzi paled in fright and finally became stern. Chapter 857. God's Descent. At this moment, Jianshan slowly uttered the words God's Descent again. His voice seemed to contain endless mysteries, resonating with the world. His calm voice directly penetrated the 9 heavens. A visible ripple rapidly spread out in all directions with Jianshan at the center. Wherever the ripple passed, the space there instantly froze. Even the 2 holy emperor experts, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi, were imprisoned. Apart from them, newbies and Bai Yifei were also affected. They were immobilized by the frozen space. At that moment, everything fell silent. The air stopped flowing, and time came to a standstill. Even the turbulent surface of the sea became extraordinarily calm. The white light in the sky became brighter and brighter, becoming more and more dazzling. At the same time, a tremendous pressure seemed to descend from the 9 heavens, as if it came from a god. It descended with a presence that looked down on the world, deeply shocking the 2 holy emperor experts. 2 roars rang through the world. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi actually managed to forcefully break through the restraints with their great strength. Without holding back at all, they charged at Jianshan with shocking presences, wanting to interrupt his technique. At this moment, a huge pillar of white light descended from the sky, enveloping the surrounding 50 kilometers. Immediately, the laws of the region distorted violently. At that moment, the region enveloped by the pillar of white light seemed to become an independent miniature world. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's faces changed drastically. They felt like they were unable to use the Holy Emperor's abilities at all. The mysteries of space and the world force they controlled seemed to have completely vanished at that moment. They could not sense their existence at all. Apart from that, the 2 of them were imprisoned once again. This time, it was not space that had imprisoned them, but an indescribable strange power. It seemed to be the power of laws that they were completely unfamiliar with. Jianshan closed his eyes as he formed a seal with his hands. He remained in the same posture as before as he hovered in the air. At that moment, his soul grew endlessly, completely fusing with the space enveloped by the pillar of white light. A wondrous feeling rose up from the bottom of his heart, as if he had become a god, a supreme and omnipotent god. He could control all life in this space as he wished. He was the absolute ruler of this miniature world. Boom! With a violent rumble, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi used their great strength to shatter the restraints of the laws once again. Powerful saint force revolved around their hands as they viciously struck at Jianshan. Jianshan slowly opened his eyes. At that moment, he could clearly sense his strength, as if he had been possessed by a god. He felt like the 2 holy emperor 5th heavenly layer experts were not undefeatable existences. Jianshan slowly raised his right hand and gently pushed it forward. A visible white ripple expanded toward Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi. Jianshan did not use chaotic force with this strike, nor did he use any of the powers he controlled. Instead, it was the power of laws unique to this domain. The power of laws collided with Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's hands, immediately erupting with a violent rumble. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's faces suddenly changed. They quickly retreated as a streak of blood had appeared on their hands. Their hands had been cut by the power of laws. Jianshan stared at Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi coldly. He felt like he had really been possessed by a god, gaining terrifying power and controlling everything. He extended a finger at Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi and murmured, "Annihilate." With these 2 words, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's clothes turned to dust. Cracks appeared on their skin as fresh blood seeped out. It was as if they were porcelain that was cracking. The 2 of them were shocked. They both bellowed out as tremendous saint force poured out of their bodies without holding back at all. It formed a powerful barrier around them that blocked the destruction of the power of laws. The 2 holy emperors had already entered an independent domain, so holy emperor abilities were unable to be used. They could only use saint force that they had not used in a very long time. This god's descent is just too terrifying. If a holy emperor at the first or second heavenly layer were trapped here, it would be difficult for them to survive. Bai Yifei, let's attack Jianshan with our full strength. He won't be able to last much longer, Ling Yuanzi growled. Ling Yuanzi bellowed. A palm-sized curved blade appeared in his hand as he directly attacked Jianshan. He had already used his saint weapon. Bai Yifei also drew his own saint weapon at the same time. The Holy Emperor erupted with his strength at the fifth heavenly layer without holding back at all, charging at Jianshan as a bolt of lightning. Jianshan remained expressionless. He extended a finger and immediately, endless light rapidly gathered toward his finger. It was all the power of laws. Jianshan gently extended his finger twice, and two white specks of light formed from the power of laws immediately shot toward Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi with lightning-like speed. The white specks of light directly pierced through their saint weapons, breaking through the barrier of saint force and striking their bodies. They pierced through their bodies, leaving behind two thumb-sized holes that gushed with blood. After being injured by the power of laws, the two of them were definitely not as lightly injured as they seemed on the surface. They immediately vomited blood as their faces paled. Oh no, these attacks are both real and fake. It's impossible to guard against them. This godfall technique is just too terrifying, Bai Yifei cried out. He was currently in a horrible shape, having lost all of his previous elegance. At this moment, two more strands of power shot out from Jianshan's hand. This time, they directly struck their foreheads. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's faces changed drastically. The forehead was where the soul was stored, so it was extremely important. If it was damaged at all, they would suffer an unbearable blow. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi immediately became covered in cold sweat. They tried their best to dodge, but in a crucial moment, their bodies were bound by the invisible power of laws again, immobilizing them. Spurt. The two strands of power broke through their saint force defenses and struck their foreheads. They came out from the back of their heads and pierced through their heads. Arg. The two of them immediately produced chilling cries as they clutched their heads tightly. Their faces were filled with pain. The souls of Holy Emperor experts were extremely powerful, so destroying them was not easy. The two strands of power had pierced through their foreheads, heavily injuring their souls but not destroying them. The two of them were in excruciating pain from the injuries to their souls. The saint force they used to protect themselves had lost their control and was slowly dissipating. Without the protection of saint force, the power of laws appeared once again, mercilessly destroying their bodies. Every part of their bodies constantly cracked as blood dyed their bodies red. If it were not for the fact that they were powerful saint kings, any saint ruler would not have been able to resist the terrifying power of annihilation. They would have been reduced to dust in a single instance. They would not have been able to last for so long. The surface of Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's bodies had completely cracked. Their flesh had already been reduced to dust as their bodies gradually turned to dust. Arg, Jianshan, the old man is going to destroy your god's descent. Saint Tier battle skill, heaven's raising finger. Ling Yuanzi roared out in pain as the saint force within him rapidly surged. All of it gathered on his right index finger as he extended a finger. Immediately, a huge finger that was 10 meters long suddenly appeared. It radiated with terrifying pulses of energy, causing the space condensed from the god's descent to tremble violently. It seemed like it was about to shatter from the pressure of the finger. As soon as the huge finger condensed, it shot toward Jianshan with an unstoppable presence. Wherever the finger passed, the snow-white world would immediately shatter. Pitch-black spatial cracks would appear. The power of the finger was enough to destroy the world. It had already surpassed the limits of what the space could endure, causing it to collapse. The huge finger locked onto Jianshan's presence, enveloping the entire region. Jianshan was unable to dodge, so he could only use his full strength to block it. He was stern as he mobilized the power of laws with all his might to fend off Ling Yuanzi's Saint Tier battle skill. Boom! The power of laws collided with the huge finger, immediately erupting with a great rumble. At that moment, the space was reduced to darkness. Jinshin's god's descent was completely destroyed by the finger, causing him to vomit blood as he was blown away. The great power from the god's descent vanished at that moment as well. With the god's descent destroyed, the surrounding space returned to normal. The violent energy from the eruption of the Saint Tier battle skill wreaked havoc in the air, causing wild gales to kick up. Violent tsunamis appeared on the surface of the sea, kicking up huge waves. Jinshin. Newbies cried out when he saw Jinshin being blown away. He immediately flew over to catch Jinshin. Run! Jinshin was pale as snow. He was haggard as he spat out those two words with great difficulty. The god's descent had not been completed. Instead, it had been forcefully destroyed by a supreme force halfway through, causing Jinshin to suffer a huge backlash. Coupled with the fact that he had also suffered a small portion of the power of the Saint Tier battle skill, his injuries worsened. Newbies did not waste any words. He immediately fled with Jinshin in his arms. Jinshin, you've heavily injured old man's soul. It'll take 1,000 years for it to heal. How can old man let you leave? Ling Yuanzi's hair was disheveled, and he was covered in blood. He was in an extremely wretched shape. His hatred for Jinshin had already reached a point of no return. Jinshin had heavily injured his soul, making it extremely difficult for him to heal, preventing him from breaking through in the future. If his soul did not heal, his strength would remain stagnant. Jinshin, I'm going to tear you to pieces. Bai Yifei roared furiously as well. He chased after Ling Yuanzi furiously. He had almost gone mad from anger. Bai Yifei did not have an organization as great as the Protector clans behind him, so it would be even more difficult for his soul to heal. It was possible that he would never be able to heal in this lifetime. From then on, it was extremely likely that his strength would forever remain at the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Even though the two of them were heavily injured, their strength was extremely terrifying. Coupled with the fact that the god's descent had been destroyed, they had grasped the Holy Emperor's abilities once more. They caught up to Newbies in a single moment and directly struck Newbies back with their palms, causing him to constantly vomit blood. Enter the artifact space. Jinshin's voice was extremely weak. Afterwards, a white light suddenly appeared, enveloping the two of them and making them disappear. Only a fist-sized golden tower hovered in the air, before fleeing as a golden streak of light. Chapter 858. The Saint Artifact shook violently in Ling Yuanzi's hand. It wanted to break free, but no matter how hard it tried, it was unable to do so. Ling Yuanzi's hand was like a steel clamp, firmly holding the Saint Artifact in place. Ling Yuanzi's hair was disheveled. He looked at the Saint Artifact in his hand viciously and laughed aloud. I never thought that this would be a treasure that can store a living person. From today onwards, this treasure belongs to me, Ling Yuanzi. Jinshin, you've injured old man's soul, so old man will accept your treasure as compensation. The Saint Artifact shook even more violently as it began to shine with a bright golden light. However, even though the artifact's spirit possessed the strength of the Holy Emperor within the Saint Artifact, it was just too weak due to its innate limitations. Even a saint ruler would be able to restrain it, let alone a supreme expert like the Holy Emperor. Jinshin, you better give up. I'd like to see how you escape from old man. Once old man takes you back to the clan, he'll have plenty of ways to deal with you. Ling Yuanzi sneered. Ling Yuanzi sneered. He covered his hand with a layer of powerful saint force, binding the Saint Artifact within. With a wave of his hand, he ripped open a space gate and was about to leave. At this moment, a tremendous force suddenly appeared. It viciously struck toward Ling Yuanzi with devastating might. The force had arrived far too suddenly and far too quickly, giving Ling Yuanzi no time to react. It had completely locked onto Ling Yuanzi's presence, making it impossible for him to dodge. At the same time, the terrifying power of the soul permeated the air, forcefully collapsing the space gate that Ling Yuanzi had created. Ling Yuanzi bellowed out. He no longer bothered with suppressing his wounds as he unleashed a full-powered attack, to fend off the powerful force surging toward him. His saint artifact shone brightly as powerful pulses of energy flooded the surroundings. Afterward, he swung down with great force. The terrifying attack obliterated space, causing darkness to appear. Boom! The two of them collided. Ling Yuanzi was no match for Yi Shiwen and suffered heavy injuries once again. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. His expression became dispirited, and he was already extremely weak. The sacred artifact that was bound in Ling Yuanzi's hand took this opportunity to break free from the demonic claw. It turned into a golden beam of light and smashed into the vast sea below, disappearing without a trace. Ling Yuanzi was greatly shocked. The strength of the person who acted in the dark was far too terrifying. It was definitely far beyond his own, which made him extremely shocked. Ling Yuanzi struggled to hover in the air. He quickly took out a piece of jade from his space ring and crushed it without hesitation. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. I wonder who it was that secretly made a move against us, the 10 great guardian clans, and spoiled our plans. Ling Yuanzi's confidence suddenly became abundant as he struggled to speak loudly. Bai Yifei arrived before Ling Yuanzi with Bai Yifei. He stared at the surroundings cautiously. The person who had acted in the dark was far too powerful. Even Bai Yifei did not have absolute confidence in victory when he was at his peak, let alone when he was heavily injured right now. At this moment, a faint humanoid figure suddenly appeared 100 meters in front of Ling Yuanzi and the others. She was a tall woman in a blue dress. She seemed to be in her 20s, and her long blue hair cascaded down to her feet like a waterfall. Her face was illusory, blurry, and impossible to see clearly. She naturally gave off a unique aura, filled with holiness and nobility. She was sacred and inviolable, making it impossible for people to have the slightest thought of profaning her. The moment they saw the woman, both Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi, who had reached the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, were surprised. This was because the two of them actually felt an urge to kneel and worship the mysterious woman. The appearance of this feeling left the two of them extremely shocked. This was because even the Path Lord of carnal desires who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor and Lankiros would not make them feel like this. "Who are you?" Ling Yuanzi called out. He was no longer as confident as before. He could sense just how powerful and terrifying the mysterious woman was. "Humans, you've already set foot in the territory of my sea race. Leave immediately." The illusionary woman spoke calmly and coldly. She did not show any emotions at all. Ling Yuanzi was surprised. He asked with a heavy voice, "Are you the Holy Emperor of the sea race?" "I am the goddess of the sea race." The illusionary woman's voice remained indifferent. "What? Poseidon?" Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi turned pale with fright. They staggered backwards as a storm raged in their hearts. "Leave my sea race's territory within 3 breaths." The illusory woman left behind her final words before disappearing without a trace. However, her appearance was a huge shock to Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi. The two of them were stunned on the spot, and their minds stopped thinking. When they came back to their senses, they did not dare to stay any longer. They threw Jinshen and the winged tiger to the back of their minds as they fled for their lives. Poseidon was a supreme expert who had surpassed the level of the Holy Emperor. Who in the world could rival him? Not long after, Ling Yuanzi met up with the people from the Yuan sect. He immediately told the great elders of the Yuan sect everything that had happened in detail. What? Poseidon is still alive? The great elders of the Yuan sect all paled in fright when they heard Ling Yuanzi's report. They were shocked. The news was like a clap of thunder to them. It was just too unbelievable. "Let's return immediately. We'll urgently call for the 10 protector clans and mercenary city to discuss this matter together." The people from the Yuan sect quickly left the sea realm with Bai Yifei. At this moment, a saint artifact that shone with a faint golden light hovered in a pitch-black cave. After escaping from Ling Yuanzi, the saint artifact had sunk to the bottom of the sea. In the end, It passed through a powerful barrier without any obstruction and entered another world. It hid in a cave. Although the world existed at the bottom of the sea, the sky was enveloped by an extremely powerful barrier. It pushed away all the water, forming an independent space in the underwater world. Within the artifact space, Jianshun and newbies were both being healed by the radiant saint force origin energy of the artifact spirit. The two of them were enveloped by a layer of dense, milky white light as their wounds rapidly healed. This time, the two of them had withstood an attack from the Holy Emperor, so their wounds were extremely severe. Newbies had to spend an entire day to completely recover. As for Jianshun, he had been injured by the Holy Emperor's Saint Tier battle skill. The power of laws that was unique to Saint Tier battle skills still remained within him, making his wounds even more severe. It was difficult for him to heal. This Saint Tier battle skill really is powerful. It's impossible for a single strand of origin energy to completely heal the wounds left behind by a Saint Tier battle skill. The artifact spirit stood before Jianshun and channeled several strands of radiant Saint Force origin energy into Jianshun's body, slowly healing the wounds left behind by the Saint Tier battle skill. The origin energy that the artifact spirit controlled was much more powerful than Jianshun's, so it would be even more effective with his assistance. After using several strands of origin energy, Jianshun's wounds finally healed completely. However, he could not change the fact that he had lost 500 years of life from using God's descent. As a result, Jianshun clearly felt a wave of weakness even though his wounds had healed. Artifact Spirit, what's the situation outside right now? The first thing Jianshun did after recovering was to ask Jianshun about the situation outside. Master, we're safe now. We've arrived at the territory of the sea race, said the artifact spirit. Jianshun finally let out a sigh of relief when he heard that. He gently sighed. It's a pity that the god's descent I cast failed to kill the two of them at the cost of 500 years of my life. Jianshun, you should be satisfied. The two of them have both reached the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, yet they've been heavily injured by you. Their souls have been damaged to the point where it's difficult to heal, so they've already paid an extremely heavy price. In the end, you even forced the old man to use a Saint Tier battle skill, said newbies. If it weren't for the fact that the Saint Tier battle skill destroyed my God's Descent, I would have been able to kill the two of them. If I cast God's Descent at the cost of 1,000 years of life, I would have been able to forcefully endure their Saint Tier battle skill before killing them, said Hanshin indifferently. He felt rather regretful inside. He had been so close to killing the two Holy Emperor experts this time. 1,000 years of life. Newbies immediately leapt up. He glared at Jianshun and said, Jianshun brat, are you tired of living? 500 years is already frightening enough, yet you want to sacrifice 1,000 years of life to kill two Holy Emperor experts? How can you do something so uneconomical? With your talent, you'll probably reach the level of the Holy Emperor in 1,000 years. By then, you'll have the power to kill your way into the Protector clans. Why are you in such a hurry? Jianshun stood up from the ground and said, Newbies, let's not talk about this for now. I plan on going into seclusion for a while. All right, I'll go into seclusion for a while as well. Once I absorb the remaining essence of the old snake, I'll be able to successfully reach the level of the Holy Emperor as well, said newbies. At this moment, the artifact spirit's face changed slightly. The senses of the people of the sea race are far too powerful. Master, a few of them have already discovered our existence. They're hurrying over. Jianshun's face sank slightly with that. He said, looks like now's not the time for seclusion. Jianshun, let's go out first. We can't let the secret of the Saint Artifact spread. We can't let the people of the sea race discover its existence. Once the news gets out, there'll be a lot of trouble, said newbies. Afterwards, there was a flash of white light in the gloomy cave. Jianshun and newbies appeared there. Jianshun stowed the Saint Artifact away before concealing his presence with newbies and making his way out. Arriving outside the cave, Jianshun subconsciously raised his head to look at the sky. He saw that the sky was dark blue. Above him was the seawater that was blocked by a powerful barrier. The barrier emitted a gentle blue light that illuminated the entire world. The entire territory of the sea race was dyed blue by the light emitted by the barrier. In the sea race, the temperature was rather gloomy. It was impossible to see the sun outside, and the 6 elements that filled the world were incomplete. The water element was extremely powerful, several times more powerful than the Tianyuan continent. The other elements were much weaker, and there was no fire element at all. Is this the world of the sea race? Jinshin softly murmured as he looked at the unfamiliar world. Although newbies knew about the existence of the sea race from his inherited memories, this was the first time he had come here. Naturally, he was very curious. He shook his head and looked around. Chapter 859. Over a dozen Class 6 magical beasts have come. Newbies stared at the figures flying over from afar. They're not magical beasts. They're humans that evolved from sea creatures. Jinshin corrected him. He could tell with a single glance that they were not humans, nor were they magical beasts. I don't have much information about the sea race in my inherited memories, but they sure are wondrous. Those sea creatures are basically the same as us magical beasts, but they don't need to reach Saint Ruler to take human form. They're much more powerful than us magical beasts. Newbie sighed emotionally. The people arrived before Jinshin very soon. They stood 20 meters away from Jinshin and were filled with caution. There were a total of 13 people. They were 12 young men and 1 woman. The 12 young men were ordinary in appearance, but the woman was rather pretty. She radiated with a noble and elegant presence. She was clearly the daughter of a wealthy family. Perhaps due to the unique environment of the sea race, their skin was either green or white. They were clearly different from the humans on the Tianyuan continent. As Jinshin and newbies studied them, they studied Jinshin and newbies as well. However, their gazes moved away from Jinshin very quickly and landed on the golden-robed newbies. Most of the people of the sea race had blue hair. Although there were a few people with hair of other colors, no one with golden hair had ever appeared before. Newbies' attire was rather unique among the sea race. Esteemed warriors, may I ask what you're doing here? The rather pretty woman asked curiously. She constantly studied Jinshin and newbies. The 2 of us are resting here. Do you need something? Jinshin asked indifferently. Miss, there's no need to pay attention to them. We're not far from Gas City, yet the 2 of them are resting in the wilderness. Clearly, they don't have enough crystal coins to pay the entrance fee, or they don't have enough crystal coins to live here. With your status, there's no need for you to talk to lowly people like that. It'll only lower your status, the woman behind the young man said. He looked at Jinshin and newbies with disdain. He did not sense their strength at all. He had already treated them as commoners. Shut up. Don't be rude, the woman frowned. The woman frowned slightly as she scolded the young man. Afterwards, she looked at the 2 of them and asked, Esteemed warriors, may I ask what your stars are? Jinshin and newbies looked at each other. They did not know how to answer. It was their first time coming to the sea race. They were still very unfamiliar with the sea race. They had no idea what a Poseidon warrior was, what their star level was, or what it represented. If they answered incorrectly, it would inevitably raise suspicions. Seeing that the 2 of them could not answer, the young man standing behind the woman could not help but say, Don't tell me you haven't become a Poseidon warrior yet. Yes, we haven't become a Poseidon warrior yet, Jinshin replied. Hearing this, the young men standing behind the woman showed disdain in their eyes. They looked at Jinshin and newbies with undisguised disdain. The woman had a suspicious look in her eyes. She clearly did not believe what Jinshin said. She was born with a special talent. She practiced one of the 8 sacred arts of the sea race, the innate spirit opening. Her perception was far superior to others of the same level. When she was passing by earlier, she clearly felt a very strong energy fluctuation. That was why she rushed over to find Jinshin and newbies. But now, her innate spirit opening could not see through Jinshin and newbies. It made her feel that these 2 people were not simple. The woman hesitated for a moment and said, Esteemed warriors, Gath City is not far from here. The grand auction that occurs once in 100 years is about to begin. Can you 2 enter the city with me? All right, Then we'll enter the city with you, miss. Jianshun agreed readily. Jianshun, why do you want to enter the city with them? Newbies asked in confusion. The sea race is a little special. Their perception is beyond my expectations. They can actually detect the presence of a sacred artifact. The presence of a sacred artifact cannot be completely hidden, so we can't expose it too often. From now on, we can only cultivate outside. As a result, I think it's very important for us to learn more about the sea race. Following them will undoubtedly be one of the most convenient ways to learn more about the sea race, Jianshun said. Yeah, that does make sense. Although I have some records about the sea race in my inherited memories, I don't know how long those memories are from. The sea race must have changed a lot. For example, I don't know what's going on with that warrior Poseidon. Afterward, Jianshun and newbies followed the woman to Gath City. The two of them hid their strength and flew slowly with a layer of water elemental energy around them. This was very easy for two Saint Kings. The two of them displayed their ability to fly, which immediately changed the way the dozen or so people looked at them. Along the way, Jianshun and newbies constantly asked about the sea race. They learned a lot of useful information from the woman, and their understanding of the sea race deepened. Other than the fact that the sea race was divided into 3 parts, there was also the difference between the inner sea and the outer sea. The inner sea was an independent world separated by the barrier that Jianshun and newbies were in. It was the holy land in the hearts of all the sea race. Only highly evolved members who could take human form had the right to enter. The members of the sea race who had not yet taken human form could only live in the outer sea. The outer sea was the world outside the barrier. Not only was the environment there terrible, but there was also little water element energy. There was also seawater everywhere. Of course, some of the sea race could not take human form due to innate reasons. As a result, one only needed to reach the strength of a 14-star warrior Poseidon to have the right to enter the inner sea. The sea god's warrior was the sea race's division of strength for practitioners. There were a total of 18 stars. Compared to the human race and the magical beasts, they were divided into 2 stars and 1 rank. 1 star and 2 stars were equivalent to human saints and rank 1 magical beasts. 3 stars and 4 stars were equivalent to great saints and rank 2 magical beasts. Based on this, 11 stars and 12 stars were equivalent to rank 6 magical beasts. 13 stars and 14 stars were equivalent to rank 7 magical beasts. 15 stars and 16 stars were equivalent to rank 8 magical beasts. And 17 stars and 18 stars were equivalent to rank 9 magical beasts. The territory of the sea race was rich with crystal coins condensed from water, elemental energy. Not only was it the common currency of the sea race, but it was also something that the sea race needed to cultivate. Crystal coins were as important to the sea race as monster cores were on the Tian-Yuan continent. The only difference was that absorbing the energy from crystal coins would not leave behind any side effects. Aside from the 3 divine halls, there were many other large and small forces that existed in the form of clans and tribes. Other than that, Jianshun also learned something very important. Humans and magical beasts were often active in the sea race. These humans and magical beasts were almost all cultivators from overseas. They were very close to the sea race, and they brought things from the outside to trade with the sea race for what they needed. Although the sea race generally did not treat foreign humans and magical beasts with hostility, there were some exceptions. Some of the members of the sea race were extremely repulsed by outsiders, so when they saw them, it was unavoidable for them to start a fight or even kill them for their treasures. Even the powerful saint rulers and class 7 magical beasts were no exception. As a result, if outsiders wanted to travel safely in the sea race, they needed to find a powerful backer. Jianshun gained some understanding of the woman's identity. She was the daughter of the patriarch of a large tribe several tens of thousand kilometers away. Her name was Kea, and she had cultivated for over 200 years. This time, she had led over a dozen 12-star Poseidon warriors to Gas City to participate in the Centennial Auction. As Jianshun hurried to Gas City, All the important figures of the 10 protector clans in Mercenary City had gathered in a hovering divine hall on the distant Tianyuan continent. Everyone, that's the situation. Poseidon is still alive, and Jinshin has fled into the territory of the sea race with the winged tiger. What should we do now? A great elder of the Yuan sect explained everything he had learned about Poseidon from Ling Yuanzi in detail. Apart from the great elder of Mercenary City, everyone else in the hovering divine hall became unprecedentedly serious. Poseidon was an influential figure in ancient times. He was someone who was as famous as the greatest human expert, Mo Tianyun, the winged tiger, and the war god, Ruijin. He was one of the 4 great experts who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. Now that so many years had passed, the ancient war god Ergens had fallen, and the ancient divine beast-winged tiger god and the strongest human Mo Tianyun were nowhere to be found. It was very likely that they had passed away from the end of their lifespans and no longer existed in this world. However, the sea goddess was still in this world. This news had a very strong impact on the people of the 10 protector clans, causing their expressions to become very ugly. Yuan Qingzi, is this news true? Are you sure that Poseidon is still alive? Could it be that some other expert is deliberately mystifying and trying to scare us? A guardian family's hostage questioned in a grave tone. It's absolutely true. Bai Yifei also witnessed this with me. Ling Yuanzi growled. He had yet to recover from his injuries, so his face was as pale as snow. He was dispirited. Ling Yuanzi, your injuries were caused by Poseidon. I can feel that your soul is extremely weak. You've been heavily injured, a ruddy old man asked. Ling Yuanzi shook his head. As soon as he thought about what had happened, he felt ashamed and resentful. The mighty Holy Emperor, a supreme expert of the 5th heavenly layer, had actually fallen to the hands of a junior who was nowhere near as powerful as him. He had completely lost face. It's Jinshin. I never thought that he would have already become a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master. He used 500 years of his lifespan to heavily injure me with God's descent, Ling Yuanzi said through gritted teeth. He was filled with hatred for Jinshin. Everyone present was surprised when they heard that. Changyang Qingyun and the Grand Elder from Changyang Prefecture revealed rather mixed expressions. They wanted to help Jinshin very much, but they were powerless to do so because this matter was related to the winged tiger. If they could not resolve the issue of who the winged tiger belonged to, they would not be able to help Jinshin. Otherwise, it would only worsen the conflict between the protector clans. It looks like it's time to tell everyone this news. Yuan Qingzi is right. Poseidon is indeed still alive. He still exists, Tianjin said. His voice was calm and steady. Tianjin, how are you so sure that Poseidon is still alive? Tianjin, since you know that Poseidon is still alive, why didn't you tell us earlier? The 2 people in charge asked at the same time. Chapter 860. Tianjin said calmly, many years ago, my origin spirit fused with the Divine Hall. I borrowed the power of the Divine Hall to peer into the world. I once sensed a powerful and terrifying power from the sea race. I was certain that she was the sea god. As for why I didn't tell you this news, do you think it's good news? It's not good to know, and it'll only increase your worries. Everyone understood. The news about Poseidon had placed an extremely great pressure on them. If it were possible, they would rather not know about it. Now that Jinshin has entered the sea realm with the winged tiger, what do you think we should do? A member of the Protector clan asked with a heavy voice. Many of the people present became extremely heavy. With the current strength of the Tianyuan continent, the sea realm was a forbidden zone to them, without a doubt. Even if they gathered all the power of the continent, they would not be able to stop one of the 4 experts who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. Even if they worked together with the Beast God continent, they probably would not be Poseidon's opponent. The Protector clans were ancient clans that had existed since ancient times. They possessed many records, so they understood the power and terror of those who had surpassed the Holy Emperor extremely well. I feel like this matter is rather strange. Since Poseidon is still alive, why haven't we heard any news about her after so many years? As a matter of fact, Everyone thinks that she's already passed away, an old man analyzed. Many people were stunned at first when they heard that, but the light in their eyes began to flicker. A middle-aged man said, "I think that's reasonable. Since Poseidon is still alive, why does she keep such a low profile? That doesn't make sense. Is she hiding from something? Or has she always been in a slumber and only just awakened?" The Holy Emperor has a lifespan of 6,000 years, while the Holy Emperor has a lifespan of 10,000 years. Poseidon has surpassed the Holy Emperor's strength. Although her lifespan is much longer than the Holy Emperor's, so much time has already passed since ancient times. It's impossible for her to still be alive no matter how long her lifespan is. Could it be that the current Poseidon is just a primordial spirit left behind back then? If it's just a primordial spirit, then there's nothing to be afraid of. The members of the 10 great guardian families voiced their own speculations and opinions. Poseidon saved Jinshin at a crucial moment, so I think she definitely knows about the winged tiger's existence. She'll definitely try to take the winged tiger for herself. The beast god continent is in even more of a hurry to take back the winged tiger than we are, so a conflict with the sea race is unavoidable. Since that's the case, why don't we just watch from the sidelines and let them fight until both sides are injured? We might even be able to reap the benefits, someone suggested. That's right, and we can use the beast god continent to probe Poseidon's situation. At this moment, a furious roar rang out from the depths of a mountain where the energy of the world was abundant. Heavenly enchantress, you bitch. I was so infatuated with you, yet you treat me like this. You even try to stop me from killing Jinshin. You bastards. Bastards. I'll definitely make you regret this. Jinshin, you bastard. Bastard. You stole the love of my life. I'll definitely make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead. So what if you fled to the sea race? I won't let a single one of your family go. I'll bathe the eternal flame mercenaries in blood. Cough, cough, bye-bye, calm down. Jinshin's family is protected by a great elder from Chanyang Prefecture. You can't do anything stupid. Remember not to clash with them openly. We can't afford to offend the protector clans. By Ifei's weak voice rang out from the cave. Father, I know what I should do, Bai Ifei said as he panted. His eyes were red as he gasped for breath. The anger in his heart had already reached its peak. Chanyang Zun stood by the window of her room in the Chanyang Prefecture of Lore City. She stared blankly in the direction of the main entrance of Chanyang Prefecture. Her face was filled with sorrow. Kong, or where are you? Chanyang Zuyeyun sorrowfully said. She had never left Luo Er's side in the past few years, silently waiting for her son's return. She had already lost count of how many times she had said the same thing. Sigh, another few years have passed. Kong Er's lifespan is getting shorter and shorter. It's just a pity that we can't find him at all with how vast the world is. Chanyang Zuyun Xiao also sighed sorrowfully. He also felt extremely sad. The Flame Mercenaries had undergone a lot of changes in the past 4 years. The original city walls had been torn down long ago, and they had begun the unprecedented project of using tungsten alloy to build the city. Under the combined efforts of several 100,000 craftsmen, pieces of tungsten alloy were piled up one by one, creating 30-meter-tall city walls. After 4 years, a third of the reconstruction of Flame City had already been completed. The scale of the Flame Mercenaries' work this time had shaken up quite a large portion of the continent, attracting the attention of various large organizations. As for Sima Yu and Bai Lian, they had begun to assign more tasks to their subordinates over the years. They spent more time on cultivation. Both of them had their bodies modified by the heavenly resources Jian Shun had left behind, so their cultivation speed far exceeded that of ordinary people. Under the personal guidance of the two saint rulers, Bai Hai and Jitatai, their progress could be said to be extremely fast. They already possessed the strength of a great saint master. Ming Dong, Tai Ta, Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, and Dugu Feng had always remained in seclusion. They had never appeared before anyone, so no one knew what level of strength they had reached. At the top of a tower in the clan of the Ancients, the head of the clan of the Ancients was standing respectfully in front of a big iron gate. Ancestor, I've already found out that your new disciple Huang Wan has already reached the third cycle of Earth Saint Master. She's currently cultivating under the personal guidance of the ancestor of the Huang family, Huang Tianba. The third cycle of Earth Saint Master. That's a little slow. If this continues, she'll need at least a decade or so to become a Heaven Saint Master. It looks like it's time for me to bring that girl over. Only by following me will her cultivation speed increase, allowing her to become a Heaven Saint Master in the shortest amount of time possible. An old but powerful voice rang out from behind the metal door. It was the ancestor of the clan of the Ancients. In the depths of the sea, Gath City was an extremely famous city within a radius of several tens of thousands of kilometers. It occupied a vast area and had a large population. It was a bustling city. Jianshun and newbies followed Kea. When they were 10 kilometers away from the city, the number of people in the surroundings gradually increased. Almost all of them were members of the sea race with blue hair and skin. Other than that, they looked exactly the same as the humans of the Tianyuan continent. Gath City is a king-tier city. Only Poseidon warriors above the 13th star can fly. If you too have reached the 13th star, you can directly fly without paying the entrance fee. Kea stared at Jianshun and newbies with shining eyes. Jianshun looked into the distance and discovered that everyone who wanted to enter the city had to pay a certain amount of crystal coins to the soldiers. Jianshun took out a 100-year-old heavenly resource from his space ring and said, "Miss Kea, we've run out of crystal coins. We'd like to use this heavenly resource to exchange for some crystal coins from you." Kea smiled and took out a bulging pouch from her space ring. She said, "Warriors, here are 100 supreme quality crystal coins. Please take it as a gift from me, Kea. Please take back this heavenly resource." Jianshun pondered and took the pouch from Kea. He said, "If that's the case, we'll take it as owing you, Miss Kea. We'll repay you in the future if there's a chance." Jianshun and newbies separated from Kea outside the city. After paying the entrance fee with a single crystal coin, they disappeared into the crowd with newbies. "Miss, could it be that you know those two unknown warriors? Why are you so generous as to give them 100 crystal coins? That's not a small amount," a guard asked in confusion after Jianshun and newbies had left. Kaya stared at the two of them as they vanished into the sea of people. She said, "I practice the innate spiritualization technique, so I can see certain things better than others. I trust my instincts. The two of them are not simple. If we can form a good relationship with them this time, it might be very beneficial to our tribe in the future. But no buts. Let's go into the city." In the city of Gas, Jianshun and newbies strolled along the bustling streets. Newbies had purposely changed his blonde hair and clothes to blue in order to not attract attention, while Jianshun still looked the same. It was almost time for the once-in-a-century auction in Gas City, so everyone was talking about it on the streets. "I heard that many treasures will appear in the auction this time, attracting many people from large tribes. There will definitely be a fierce battle. I heard that there will be 3 Earth-level battle Saint techniques in the auction this time. I wonder if that's true." Battle Saint techniques were equivalent to battle skills on the Tianyuan continent, except they were called by a different name. The sea race divided the Battle Saint techniques into 4 levels: Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow. Heaven level was the highest, equivalent to Saint-level battle skills on the Tianyuan continent, while Yellow level was the lowest. It was equivalent to human-level battle skills on the Tianyuan continent. It's not just the Earth-level battle Saint techniques. I heard that there's a Heaven-level battle Saint technique being auctioned as well, but it doesn't seem to be complete. It can only be used for 6 hours. The Mercury liquid is also being auctioned in this auction. The Mercury liquid is a product of the Sea of Despair. It is produced by the heavens and earth and is extremely rare. It is a sacred item of our sea race. Drinking a mouthful of it can transform a person with mediocre talent into a cultivation genius that only appears once every 1,000 years. I heard that there's also a Class 8 Radiant Spirit pill being auctioned. It was brought from the distant Tianyuan continent. It's an extremely precious healing pill. It's priceless. there's a fragment of the legendary map of the 8 Wastelands being auctioned. It was left behind by the 17-star 8 Wastelands Emperor 10,000 years ago. It's the key to the 8 Wastelands Divine Palace. It contains the inheritance and treasures of the 8 Wastelands Emperor. There's a total of 8 fragments of the map of the 8 Wastelands. It's said that 7 of them have already appeared, and they're all controlled by the 7 large tribes. This seems to be the last one. Jianshan and newbies strolled through the streets unhurriedly. They observed the customs of the sea race as they listened to the conversations of the people around them. This emperor of the 8 Wastelands Divine Palace was actually a 17-star expert. According to the classification of strength of the sea race, he should be a holy emperor, a dwelling left behind by a holy emperor. Interesting, newbies murmured as he stroked his chin. His eyes were filled with great interest. Just when Jianshan wanted to tell newbies to keep a low profile, Ziying's voice rang out in his head before he could say anything. Master, I've found another material for forging the azulate swords. It's 10 kilometers in front of you. Chapter 861. What? You found another material? Jianshan was overjoyed. He immediately sped up. After traveling 10 kilometers, Jianshan arrived in front of a huge castle. He had learned from Ziying that the materials for forging the azulate swords were in the castle. Gas auction house. Looking at the majestic words on the castle, Jianshan understood that the materials for forging the azulate swords would most likely appear in the form of an auction. Every single material used to forge the azulate swords was extremely rare, and they were extremely unique. They cannot be destroyed easily. Aside from a few that had some uses, most of the other materials could not be used by the people of this world. However, because of their rarity and uniqueness, they possessed a certain value. Many people of high status collected them and treated them as treasures. Master, this material is called holy water of the Sea of Spirits. It's a liquid that only forms in the Sea of Spirits after countless years. It has extremely wondrous effects. If anyone below the level of the Holy Emperor drinks it, not only will their strength greatly increase, but it can also condense their soul. Ziying's voice rang out in Jianshan's head, explaining the effects of the holy water of the Sea of Spirits in detail to Jianshan. Ziying, why do I feel like the holy water of the Sea of Spirits is something that can increase strength and not a material for forging weapons? Jianshan asked out of curiosity. Master, you might not know this, but the holy water of the Sea of Spirits is filled with natural spiritual energy. When forging the azulate swords, if it is added, the quality of the swords will greatly increase. It can even directly raise the quality of the swords from low-quality immortal artifacts to peak-quality immortal artifacts, Ziying explained. Jianshan understood and thought, since the holy water of the Sea of Spirits is so useful to saint rulers, there must be many people fighting over it. I need to get some currency here. Anyway, I can't let anyone else buy it. If someone drinks it as soon as they buy it, I'll be missing out. Although Jianshan had a large amount of purple coins on him, the currency of the Tian Yuan continent was worthless to the sea race. It was completely useless here. Jianshan, what are you standing there for? Newbies could not help but ask out of curiosity when he saw Jianshan standing there without moving. Jianshan looked at the auction house and said, "There's something I need in there. We need to find a way to get some crystal coins." "That's easy. Let's go steal some in the wilderness," Newbies said confidently. Jianshan laughed involuntarily with that. "Newbies, to think that you're the mighty Serpent Emperor. You're actually doing something like this as a Class 7 magical beast." Newbies scratched its head and chuckled. "It's the law of the jungle. This is the law of survival in this world, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. However, it is indeed rather embarrassing for us to rob people for mere crystal coins with our status. Whatever, Jianshan, I'll listen to what you have to say. I wonder if you have any ideas on how to make money." Jianshan pondered for a moment before saying, "There's still half a month before the auction. There's still time. Let's find an inn to stay in first and think of a way to earn crystal coins. If it really doesn't work, I'll just have to auction off some of the valuable treasures in my space ring." Jinshin really did not want to sell the things in his space ring unless it was absolutely necessary. This was because out of all the valuable things on him, probably only the 10,000-year-old treasures and the dragon saliva grass could be accepted by the sea race. It would be a pity to sell those things. As for the monster cores, they were not as useful to the sea race as humans, so they were not worth much. Moreover, the energy in many of the high-level monster cores had solidified and been lost in large quantities, making them even less valuable. At this moment, the conversation of a passerby attracted Jinshin's attention. The Dal tribe is done for this time. They've actually offended the Menghuang tribe. The Menghuang tribe is a famous tribe within a radius of 50,000 kilometers. It's said that there are 3 13-star Poseidon warriors in the tribe. 3 13-star Poseidon warriors are enough to sweep through all the organizations within a radius of several tens of thousand kilometers. No one can stand up to them. It's said that the old patriarch of the Menghuang tribe is still alive. He's already at the 14-star Poseidon warrior level. He's one of the peak experts within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. I've also heard that the old patriarch of the Menghuang tribe is on good terms with an emissary of the Serpent God Hall. Many other large tribes dare not offend them. Only the patriarch of the Dal tribe has reached the 13-star Poseidon warrior level. I'd like to see how they fend off the attack of the Menghuang tribe this time. I've heard that the Dal tribe's territory has a spirit vein that produces crystal coins. They're able to obtain a large amount of crystal coins every year, making many tribes within a radius of several tens of thousands of kilometers envious. The Menghuang tribe seems to have set their sights on the spirit vein that the Dal tribe occupies, which is why they want to take it for themselves. It looks like the spirit vein is destined to belong to the Menghuang tribe. That's not necessarily the case. I've heard that the Dal tribe has already spent a lot of money to gather experts from all over the place. They plan on fighting the Menghuang tribe to the death. Becoming enemies with the Menghuang tribe isn't a wise choice. I don't think anyone would actually dare to do that. Jinshin immediately fell into deep thought when he heard that. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Jinshin, don't tell me you're thinking about helping the Dal tribe fend off the Menghuang tribe. Newbies could not help but ask when he saw Jinshin's expression. The Dal tribe only has a single 13-star Poseidon warrior. He's probably below the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, so the difference between them and the Menghuang tribe is far too great. If they want to find someone who can fend off the Menghuang tribe, they'll have to pay quite a price. Perhaps we can try it and use the opportunity to earn some crystal coins, Jinshin said after some thought. It's extremely likely for our presences to be sensed by the Saint Ruler of the Sea Race when we fight. If they discover that we're outsiders, we might run into a lot of trouble in the future, Newbies said. Let's find an inn to stay in first and slowly think about it, Jinshin suggested. Afterward, Jinshin and Newbies found a rather large inn to stay in. Jinshin and Newbies gathered in a large and comfortable room to discuss matters. They had just arrived in the Sea Race, and only the Sea Race possessed the strength to fend off the protector clans of the Tian Yuan continent and the Beast God continent. They would definitely be staying in the Sea Race for quite some time in the future, so Jinshin and Newbies kept a relatively low profile. They did not want to cause too much trouble and become the public enemy of the Sea Race. The bodies of a Sea Race are no different from humans. The only problem is our presences. It'll be great if we can hide our presences. That way, we won't have to keep such a low profile, Jinshin murmured. As soon as he reached there, Jinshin's face suddenly changed. He suddenly looked behind him, and his indifferent gaze sharpened at that moment. Newbies also looked back when he sensed Jinshin's movement. His face immediately changed drastically from what he saw. His gaze immediately became extremely sharp as vast energy churned within him. He was ready to fight at any time. A faint figure rapidly condensed in the direction the two of them were looking at. It hovered half a meter above the ground. It was a woman in blue robes with long, blue hair. She possessed a devilish figure, but her appearance was a blur. It was impossible to make out what she looked like. "Who are you?" Jinshin asked with a heavy voice. He was stern. If it were not for the fact that his soul had become much more powerful after absorbing the yin and yang qi, he would not have sensed the woman's appearance at all. At the same time, he could clearly sense that the woman's figure was completely condensed from his soul. Jianshun, who I am is not important. All you need to know is that I have no ill intentions towards you. The woman's clear voice rang out. It was as pleasant as the chirping of skylark. How do you know my name? Jianshun's face became extremely ugly. Newbie's face suddenly changed as well. The woman knew Jianshun's name so easily. Did that not mean that she knew everything about Jianshun on the Tianyuan continent? I have no ill intentions towards you, so there's no need for you to be wary. I've specially come to help you this time, the woman said softly. Afterward, she did not seem to move at all, but 2 thumb-sized blue beads suddenly appeared. They hovered before Jianshun and Newbies. These are water spirit beads. I refined them from the Niden of the sea race. All you need to do is consume them, and they'll completely conceal your presence as an outsider. They won't harm you at all. Who are you? Why are you helping us? Jianshun and Newbies did not accept the Niden. The 2 of them were extremely curious about the woman's identity. You'll naturally know who I am in the future. Jianshun, I've helped you twice. You have to help me in the future, said the woman. You've helped me twice? Jianshun was confused. If it weren't for me, would you have been able to escape from the hands of the human experts? That was the first time I helped you, giving you the water spirit beads, and now is the second time I've helped you. Jianshun, as long as you're with the sea race, I'll help you keep the experts of the Beast God continent and the Tianyuan continent at bay. You'll have nothing to worry about. Once you're powerful enough in the future, I only want you to do one thing for me. What do you want me to do? If it's beyond what I can do, I'll probably have to disappoint you, said Jianshun. I've searched the entire world. Perhaps only you have the ability. If even you can't do it, then there's no one else in the world who has the ability. You'll naturally know what I want you to do in the future. The woman's voice was clear and pleasant, but it also seemed unfathomable. Moreover, there are a total of 8 fragments of the 8 wastelands. 7 of them are in the possession of the 7 great tribes. The auction this time will be the last one, so you must obtain it. It'll be of great use to you in the future. You're currently in the territory of the Serpent God Hall. If you can't stay here in the future, go to the Poseidon Hall. You'll be safe there. Chapter 862. Jianshun and Newbies both sank into their thoughts. Every single word the illusionary woman had said echoed through their heads, but they were even more curious about her identity. However, the 2 of them knew that since the woman was bold enough to say that she would stop the experts of the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent, she was definitely extremely powerful and possessed an extraordinary status in the sea race. Jianshun, do you think the words of that mysterious woman can be trusted? Are the 2 water spirit pearls she gave us really harmless? Newbies turned to Jianshun. Jianshun stared at the 2 water spirit pearls for a while before replying, It doesn't matter if what the mysterious woman said was true or not. Since she has a favor to ask of me, she probably won't harm us. I'll ingest one of the water spirit pearls first and see if they're as wondrous as she says they are. With that, Jianshun directly grabbed the floating water spirit pearl and swallowed it. Jianshun only felt a refreshing sensation spread through every corner of his body when the pearl entered his stomach. He did not feel any discomfort at all. Jianshun closed his eyes and carefully checked his body. Only when he did not find anything wrong did he slowly open his eyes. He said to Newbies, there shouldn't be any harm. Newbies stared at Jianshun in surprise. He sighed in amazement. Jianshun, I can feel that your presence has changed a little. You've actually become exactly the same as the people of the sea race. Looks like the mysterious woman didn't lie to us. The water spirit pearls really can change the presence of outsiders. Immediately, Newbies stopped hesitating. He grabbed the orb that hovered before him and swallowed it. As the pearl entered his stomach, Jianshun could clearly sense that Newbies' presence was rapidly changing. His magical beast presence had been concealed and replaced by a presence that was exactly the same as the people of the sea race. Jianshun could not help but smile happily when he saw this. He said, Newbies, your presence has changed as well. I can't sense the magical beast presence on you with my current abilities. It's all good now. Our worries from before have been completely eliminated. From now on, we don't have to worry so much when we move around the sea race. Yeah, we can move around the sea race as we please from now on. Oh right, Jianshun, don't you need to earn a large amount of crystal coins? We just happen to be able to help the Dal tribe fend off the invasion of the Menghuang tribe. Since the Dal tribe possesses a spirit vein that produces crystal coins, they must be extremely wealthy. We have to rip them off as much as we can, Nubi said. The smile on Jinshin's face gradually disappeared as soon as they began to talk about serious matters. He lowered his head in thought and said, "We've heard from passers-by that the Menghuang tribe has 3 13-star Poseidon warriors and 1 14-star Poseidon warrior. According to our continent's ranking, 13-star Poseidon warriors should be below the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, while 14-star Poseidon warriors should be above the 5th heavenly layer. If the Menghuang tribe really only has this much strength, then the two of us should be able to deal with them easily. Why don't we go investigate the Menghuang tribe's strength and see if they have any Holy Emperor-level experts? As long as they don't have any Holy Emperor-level experts, nothing will be a problem," Nubi said. "That works too. Gas City is a large city, so there should be a place to sell information. Let's go investigate the exact strength of the Menghuang tribe first," Jianshun said before leaving the inn with newbies. Jianshun and newbies walked through the streets. After some investigation, they finally found a place that sold all sorts of top-secret information. This was a small building called Tianxia Access. It was built from limestone and had traces of time on it. Clearly, it had been there for a very long time. The building was very quiet and the decorations were very simple. There was no one else there aside from Jianshun and newbies. "Two brave warriors. You must be here to inquire about the auction. Two brave warriors. Please wait a moment." During this period of time, many people have come here to inquire about the auction. Currently, several managers are receiving guests upstairs. It will be done very soon. A voice came from behind the counter not far away. Jianshun and newbies looked up and saw a young man looking at them from behind the counter. He was very small, and he was only a meter tall. Jianshun walked in front of the counter and said to the young man, "I hear you guys have access to all sorts of information. Is that true? Two brave warriors. It seems like you don't understand the capabilities of Tianxia. We have many members, and we can be found throughout the entire sea region. Although our strength isn't top-notch, no one in the entire sea region dares to compete with us when it comes to information gathering," the young man said solemnly. He was very confident in himself. "All right then, I want to know the exact strength of the Menghuang tribe," Jianshun said. The young man could not help but study Jianshun and newbies carefully. He immediately became respectful and said hurriedly, "My two respected heroes, you must be going to help the Dal tribe. I just happen to know everything about the Menghuang tribe, so allow me to tell you. However, according to the rules, you will have to pay 10 high-grade crystal coins as a reward." An hour later, Jianshun and newbies left Tianxia Access. He had already learned about the exact situation of the Menghuang tribe from Tianxia Access. Although the information differed slightly from what he had heard from passers-by, it was basically the same. The Menghuang tribe had 3 saint rulers below the 5th heavenly layer and 1 saint ruler above the 5th heavenly layer. Jianshun did not take them seriously, but what Jianshun and newbies really cared about was that there was a member of the Menghuang tribe with outstanding talent who was an envoy of the Divine Hall. It was said that he had even been accepted as a disciple by a hall elder of the Serpent God Hall. He possessed quite the status in the Serpent God Hall. The Dal tribe was not far from Gas City. It was only 10,000 kilometers away. Jianshun investigated the exact location of the Dal tribe before hurrying over with newbies. The Dal tribe was a medium-sized tribe with a population of more than 10,000. They occupied a piece of flat land, surrounded by many small lofts made of bluestone bricks. Only in the center was a castle building that occupied an area of several thousand square meters. Jianshun and newbies flew over from Gas City. They did not use the main entrance and directly arrived at the center of the Dal tribe. They stopped before the castle. "Who is it?" Everyone be on guard. The two of them had arrived with great fanfare, immediately alarming the entire doll tribe. Many Heaven Saint Masters immediately flew over from the surroundings. They surrounded Jianshun and newbies along with a few Earth Saint Masters. Warriors, who are you? Please state your intentions. An old Heaven Saint Master growled. He was stern, as if he was facing a great enemy. The other people were all on guard as well. They glared at Jianshun and newbies, but they did not do anything rash. Newbies crossed his arms and sneered at the people around him. His face was filled with disdain. Jianshun remained indifferent. He glanced at the people around him and calmly asked, "Is this the doll tribe?" "Correct. We're the doll tribe. May I ask who you are?" It was still the same old man who had spoken before. He seemed to have realized that Jianshun and newbies were not enemies now, so he could not help but speak with a gentler tone. "The two of us have come to help you deal with the Menghang tribe. Is this how you welcome your helpers?" Jianshun stared at the old man and casually asked. The old man rejoiced when he heard that. His attitude immediately changed. He smiled from ear to ear and said, "So the two of you are esteemed guests of my doll tribe. Please come in, please come in. We thought you were from the Meng Huang tribe before, so please forgive us if we have offended you in any way." The old man did not mention the fact that Jianshun and newbies had barged into the doll tribe. He politely invited the two of them into the castle. Jianshun and newbies met the Grand Elder of the doll tribe in the majestic castle. The Grand Elder was also a Heaven Saint Master. He had already reached the peak of the 6th cycle, only a step away from Saint Ruler. His status in the doll tribe was only second to the Patriarch. Old Man Doll Tribe's Grand Elder, Lorkisk, welcomes the two of you who have come to assist our doll tribe in fending off the Menghuang tribe. May I ask for your names? The Grand Elder smiled at Jianshun and newbies. His old eyes flickered with light as he constantly studied Jianshun and newbies, as if he wanted to see through them completely. "I am Yang Yutian, and this is my good friend, newbies. Grand Elder, may I ask how great of a reward your doll tribe is willing to give us for helping you fend off the people of the Menghuang tribe? If it's not enough." Jianshun could not be bothered to waste time with the Grand Elder, so he directly cut to the chase. The Grand Elder did not mind Jianshun's straightforwardness at all. He smiled, "Don't worry, warriors. In order to protect the peace of the tribe this time, and prevent it from being swallowed up by the Menghuang tribe, our doll tribe has paid a huge price. As long as we can fend off the attacks of the Menghuang tribe and heavily injure them, we're willing to take out all of our crystal coins as a reward." "I hope the Grand Elder can provide a specific amount," Jianshun smiled. The Chief Elder chuckled and said, "At present, our doll tribe can come up with a total of 10 million premium crystal coins. These 10 million premium crystal coins will be distributed according to the strength and meritorious service of the warriors who have assisted our doll tribe. The stronger the warrior, the more crystal coins he will receive." Jianshun and newbies looked at each other. They were both stunned by the wealth of the doll tribe. Although they had only just arrived in the sea race, they still understood the value of crystal coins extremely well. A single supreme grade crystal coin was equivalent to 100 high-grade crystal coins, 10,000 mid-grade crystal coins, and 100,000 low-grade crystal coins. For a force of the doll tribe scale to be able to take out 5 million supreme grade crystal coins at once, they were already considered very wealthy. For the doll tribe to be able to take out 10 million supreme grade crystal coins at once, it had to be said that the doll tribe was extremely wealthy. 10 million supreme grade crystal coins was a considerable amount of wealth in the sea race, enough to match the wealth of some large tribes. Chapter 863. Newbie's words immediately made the Grand Elder of the doll tribe's face stiffen. He seemed to be in a difficult spot. Noticing the Grand Elder's expression, Jianshun asked, "Grand Elder, is there something wrong?" Jianshun's voice was rather heavy. Perhaps sensing that Jianshun and newbies were displeased, the Grand Elder immediately asked, "Warriors, may I ask how many stars you've reached? Looks like the Grand Elder is worried about our strength. Please don't worry about that. If the Menghuang tribe really only has what they seem to have, the two of us will naturally be able to deal with them easily," Jianshun swore. Could it be that the strength of the two warriors has already reached the 14-star stage? The great elder couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. His expression was wild with joy. Jianshun and newbies smiled mysteriously, but they said nothing. The great elder of the Doll tribe stood up and said, "Warriors, please wait for a moment. I'll go and invite the chief here right away. Men, take good care of these two respected warriors for me." With that, the great elder left in a hurry, filled with excitement. After the grand elder left, only Jianshun and newbies remained in the large hall. There are 3 saint rulers in the Doll tribe. One of them should be the patriarch, while the other 2 should be experts of the sea race who have come to help the Doll tribe deal with the Meng Huang tribe, Jianshan gently said. He was extremely indifferent. Newbies nodded. I can sense that as well. Looks like they're all our competitors. We can deal with the Meng Huang tribe with just the 2 of us. There's no need for extra people to get involved, or the crystal coins we can get will become less and less. We need to chase away all our competitors. That's right, Jianshan agreed. Soon, the chief of the Doll tribe and the chief elder arrived at the main hall. The chief of the Doll tribe was a burly middle-aged man with a bald head and a resolute face. He wore an aqua blue singlet that exposed his thick arms. The distinct muscles on his arms gave a strong visual impact. His lower body was only covered by a pair of shorts that only covered his knees. Jianshan could not help but think of the mercenaries who spent all their time on the Tianyuan continent with his appearance. Ha! Welcome to our Doll tribe, 2 mighty warriors. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling. As soon as the chief of the Doll tribe entered the main hall, he laughed heartily and spoke in a very heroic manner. After exchanging some pleasantries with the patriarch of the Doll tribe, Jianshan entered the main topic. I've already heard from the Grand Elder on the way that the 2 of you want all of the 10 million supreme quality crystal coins. Is that true? The patriarch asked seriously. His eyes flickered with shrewdness as he stared at Jianshan and Nuanyuan closely. That's right. We'll take all of the 10 million crystal coins. We'll help you fend off the 4 experts of the Meng Huang tribe, Newbies said boldly. He did not take the saint rulers of the Meng Huang tribe seriously at all. Do you know the strength of the Meng Huang tribe? Do you really have the confidence to fend off the 4 of them? The patriarch asked. You don't need to worry. As long as they're not 15-star Poseidon warriors or have not grasped the Tian-level saint technique, they won't be a threat to us. Newbies was filled with confidence. The chief of the Doll tribe immediately showed a hint of joy on his face, but it was quickly followed by a hint of awkwardness. He said, the strength of these 2 warriors has shocked me. However, 2 13-star and 14-star warriors from our Doll tribe have already arrived, and we've already negotiated with them. Isn't that simple? Just chase the 2 of them away, Newbies said. Chase them away? I like to see who's so arrogant as to boast like that. As soon as Newbies finished speaking, an old, furious voice rang out from outside. With that, a black-robed old man strode in with a furious expression. Behind a black-robed old man was a middle-aged man in blue robes. At this moment, the middle-aged man's face was filled with anger. The 2 of them were the 2 experts who had arrived before Jianshan and Newbies to help the Doll tribe fend off the Meng Huang tribe. The patriarch of the Doll tribe immediately stood up and greeted the 2 of them. He was extremely polite. The 2 of them were no weaker than him. So, as the patriarch, he needed to consider everyone in the tribe. He could not offend a saint ruler so easily. Moreover, the 2 saint rulers had come to assist the Doll tribe in fending off the Meng Huang tribe. The prideful Newbies did not treat the 2 of them politely at all. He coldly glanced at the 2 of them, and a sliver of disdain appeared in his eyes. He coldly said, looks like you don't know how to spell the word death if you dare to speak to the great Newbies like that. Old man, if you know what's good for you, piss off immediately, or I'll destroy your soul. The black-robed old man flew into a rage. His gaze suddenly became fierce as he shouted, You brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You actually dare to be so arrogant. Let me see if you have the qualifications to be arrogant. With that, the old man formed a claw with his hand and reached toward Newbies with lightning-like speed. At the same time, The space around Newbies froze at that moment. The black-robed old man had already used spatial force to imprison Newbies' body. Newbies sneered. With a gentle jerk of his body, the frozen space in the surroundings immediately shattered. He clenched his hand into a fist and punched out with an unstoppable presence. The fist and palm collided, erupting with a heavy sound. The powerful force that shot out in all directions caused the entire hall to violently shake. If it were not for the patriarch of the Doll tribe who had protected the hall with his own strength at that crucial moment, the entire hall probably would have collapsed. The black-robed old man immediately paled. He staggered back a few steps, leaving behind a deep footprint with each step. He only managed to stabilize himself after taking over a dozen steps back. He could no longer endure it and immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. He was quite heavily injured. On the other hand, Newbies remained composed. He stood where he was at ease, and he did not even tremble. Newbies' original form was a golden-striped silver snake, so his battle prowess was extremely great. Coupled with the fact that he was a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler, it was difficult for him to find an opponent at the same level as him. Probably only a supreme expert like the Holy Emperor could suppress him. Although the black-robed old man was a 14th-star Poseidon warrior, he was only a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler. How could he be Newbies' opponent? Not only did Newbies' strength shock the black-robed old man, but even the patriarch of the Doll tribe was extremely shocked. Newbies' strength had completely exceeded what the patriarch had expected. Very soon, the patriarch returned to his senses. He immediately ran to the center and stopped the two of them. He begged, "Please calm down, warriors. Please calm down. Why are you making such a big fuss over such a small matter? My tiny territory can't endure the two of you." Jianshan stood up from his chair and looked at the two of them. He clasped his hands. "Excuse me. Please leave. We need crystal coins urgently, so we'll be taking all 10 million of them." The black-robed old man paled. He clasped his hands at Newbies and emotionlessly said, "I admire your strength. I, the Crab King, won't be participating in this matter. Patriarch, since you've invited even more powerful warriors, there's no need for me to stay. Farewell." With that, the black-robed old man turned around and left. The patriarch of the Doll tribe sighed inside before pulling out a space belt from his space ring and tossing it to the black-robed old man. He said, "Crab King, I'm really sorry about this matter. There are 100,000 high-grade crystal coins and 10,000 supreme-grade crystal coins in there. Just treat it as a gift from the Doll tribe to you." The black-robed old man did not refuse. He accepted the space belt from the patriarch of the Doll tribe and quickly checked its contents. His expression immediately eased up, and he clasped his hands at the patriarch of the Doll tribe. "Thank you." The patriarch of the Doll tribe finally let out a breath of relief. The old man before him was much more powerful than him, so his Doll tribe could not afford to offend him. After the black-robed old man left, the other middle-aged man who had come to assist the Doll tribe did not stay for long either. He left after exchanging some pleasantries with Jianshan and Newbies. He no longer dared to show any displeasure on his face. Newbies' strength had deeply shocked him. However, before he left, the patriarch of the Doll tribe still gave him the same amount of crystal coins as a gift, so that he could resolve some of the displeasure between the two of them. Grand Elder immediately announced that our Doll tribe has already found enough experts to deal with the Mengwang tribe. We're officially withdrawing the announcement of hiring experts. The patriarch of the Doll tribe immediately ordered. He was afraid that another saint ruler would come to the Doll tribe's aid, only to return in disgrace in the end. Afterward, the patriarch of the Doll tribe invited Jianshan and Newbies to a secret room to discuss the exact situation. After witnessing Newbies heavily injure a 14th-star Poseidon warrior with a single punch, the patriarch of the Doll tribe finally stopped worrying about Jianshan and Newbies. He was certain that the two of them did indeed possess the strength to deal with the Mengwang tribe. "Patriarch, may I ask when the Mengwang tribe will attack?" Jianshan asked. Chapter 864. Patriarch, there just happens to be something we need at the auction this time. Once the auction begins, please come with us to the auction and buy what we need, Jianshan said. The patriarch of the doll tribe hesitated when he heard that. Jianshan knew what the patriarch was worried about. He said, "Don't worry, patriarch. We're not people who go back on our words. Since we've said it, we'll definitely do it. Once the auction is over, we'll definitely help you deal with the Mengwang tribe. If the Mengwang tribe doesn't come, we'll take the initiative to attack the Mengwang tribe. How does that sound?" All right. Since you've said that, I'll definitely do my best to cooperate with you." The patriarch smiled easily. Afterwards, Jianshan and Nubi stayed in the doll tribe to guard against a sudden attack from the Mengwang tribe. They were warmly welcomed by the entire tribe, enjoying the treatment of kings. At the same time, the news that the doll tribe had found an expert who could deal with the Mengwang tribe spread. It caused quite a stir in the outside world. Aside from the Centennial Auction in Gas City, everyone else was talking about the conflict between the doll tribe and the Mengwang tribe. The difference in strength between the two tribes was huge, but they both had saint rulers. On the Tian-Yuan continent, the doll tribe could be considered a hermit clan. Within 100,000 kilometers of the sea race, the doll tribe was one of the largest tribes that stood at the apex. The conflict between the two tribes obviously attracted the attention of many people. In a primeval forest that was 50,000 kilometers away from the doll tribe, there was a large area of small lofts that were completely built from trees all around. There was an endless stream of pedestrians in between the lofts. From time to time, there would be sounds of laughter and chatter. The atmosphere was lively and full of vitality. This was the famed large tribe within 100,000 kilometers, the Mengwang tribe. In the center of the Meng Baron tribe, there was a tall tower made entirely of rock. This tower was the holiest place in the Meng Baron tribe. Its existence represented the peace and strength of the Meng Baron tribe for generations. This was because the four most powerful guardians of the Meng Baron tribe lived in this tower. At this moment, four old men sat around a stone table at the very top of the tower. They were all stern. "I've just received news that the doll tribe has found an expert who can fight against our Menghuang tribe. I wonder if this is true." He was the current chief of the Meng Desolate tribe, while the other three were the two guardian elders and the strongest of the three, the old patriarch. "It seems that the doll tribe is prepared to fight to the death with our Meng Desolate tribe. I wonder how strong the expert they have invited is." A guardian elder said in a low voice. "Although the doll tribe has some crystal coins, they definitely won't be able to invite a true expert with that amount of crystal coins. Moreover, our Mengwang tribe is renowned. An outstanding clansman has been chosen as an emissary of the Serpent God Hall, so his status is great. In the territory of the Serpent God Hall, aside from the peak tribes and clans, no one dares to not show us some respect. As a result, I'm certain that the news that the doll tribe has released is false. Their goal is to make us fear them, and the helpers they've invited are not sincere in helping them. They only want to scam us of our crystal coins, so there's no need for us to pay any attention to this matter at all. Once the auction is over, we'll lead the experts of our tribe directly to the doll tribe," another guardian elder analyzed. "Old chief, what do you think?" The current chief asked the old chief who had been sitting there with his eyes closed the entire time. The old tribal chief slowly opened his eyes and said, "Although our Meng Desolate tribe has a great reputation and many large tribes have to show us respect, it's not like we don't have any enemies. I'm guessing that among the experts that the doll tribe has invited, there may be some of our past enemies. Therefore, this matter cannot be taken lightly. Now that the auction is about to begin in Gath City, the final map fragment of the 8 wastelands will appear as well. Many large tribes and even peak tribes will fight over it, so it's unwise for us to start a war before the auction begins. Once the auction is over, the 3 of you should go to the doll tribe and investigate the situation." In the blink of an eye, over a dozen days passed. Today was the day of the grand auction that would only take place once every 100 years in Gath City. The appearance of the 8 wastelands had already attracted many experts and large tribes to gather in Gath City. Although Gath City looked calm on the surface, there was an undercurrent surging in the dark as if a storm was brewing. Before the auction began, a large group of people had already gathered outside the auction house in Gath City. As far as the eye could see, there was a dense crowd of people. The number of people was so large that they had already blocked the nearby streets. The buzzing sound of discussions could be heard incessantly. Among these people, some were here to watch the show, while others were here to participate in the auction. However, those who were able to arrive early didn't have much of a background. They were all people from small families or small tribes. After an hour, loud sounds of firecrackers rang out from all around the auction house. Following a loud explosion in the sky, there was a burst of colorful light, which was very beautiful. As the firecrackers rose into the air, the tightly shut doors of the auction house began to slowly open. The people outside all began to move, making their way into the auction house in an orderly manner. 30 meters above the huge castle of the auction house, a circular platform with a diameter of 100 meters slowly extended out of the castle. This platform was specially used to receive special guests with high statuses and VIP rooms. On the platform, dozens of young women dressed in flirtatious attire gracefully stood there. Each of them had a beaming smile on their faces, giving people a sense of intimacy. When the platform completely stabilized, a few groups of people immediately flew out from the crowd and landed on the platform. They were warmly received by female attendants as they entered the VIP rooms through special passageways. All the people who had the right to enter the auction house from the platform 30 meters above the castle were people of great authority in the sea race. There was no lack of first-rate clans and tribes among them. Their strength was equivalent to the hermit clans and ancient clans of the Tianyuan continent. Jianshun, newbies, and the patriarch of the Dal tribe flew over from afar as well. They directly landed on the platform, and a female attendant immediately walked over with a smile. She gently said, "Respected warriors, please show me your VIP room plates. I'll lead the way for you." The patriarch of the Dal tribe immediately passed his VIP room plates to the female attendant from his space ring. "Respected warriors, please come with me." The female attendant smiled. She was like 100 flowers blooming. She was extremely charming. The three of them did not say anything. They followed behind the female attendant and made their way in. There were quite a few people from various tribes on either side of them. They were all led into the castle by a female attendant. Just then, the Dal tribe's chief paused in his footsteps and suddenly turned his head to look behind him. His originally calm gaze suddenly flashed with a sharp light, and there was even a hint of murderous intent radiating from his body. There was no lack of saint rulers who could stand on the platform, so the change in the patriarch of the Dal tribe was immediately noticed by the people around him. Immediately, quite a few people cast curious gazes at him, but no one said anything. Even though the patriarch of the Dal tribe was not very powerful, he was still a saint ruler. No one wanted to provoke an expert like that for no reason. Jianshun and newbies also stopped. Looking at the patriarch of the Dal tribe, they immediately followed his gaze. In the distance, 3 old men flew over with a few heaven saint masters. Jianshun and newbies could tell with a single glance that the 3 old men were saint rulers. Warriors, they're the people of the Menghuang tribe. The 3 old men at the very front are the current patriarch and the 2 protector elders. The patriarch of the Menghuang tribe said in a deep voice. The chief of the Dal tribe said in a deep voice. He looked at the people of the Menghuang tribe with eyes filled with undisguised hatred. A gleam of light flashed through the eyes of Jianshun and newbies. Their gazes toward the 3 old men immediately became rather cold. Ha! I never thought that the patriarch of the Dal tribe would actually participate in the auction this time. It really has surprised the 3 of us. The 3 old men of the Menghuang tribe also discovered the patriarch of the Dal tribe, so one of them immediately laughed aloud. Didn't the patriarch of the Dal tribe use up all the wealth of the tribe to find experts? Why do you have extra crystal coins to participate in the auction this time? The old man in the middle mocked. He was the current patriarch of the Menghuang tribe. As they spoke, the 3 experts of the Menghuang tribe studied Jianshun and newbies, who stood to the left and right of the patriarch of the Dal tribe. The patriarch of the Dal tribe's face sank. He sneered, "Menghuang tribe, I'd like to see just how much longer you can be so arrogant. Once the auction is over, my Dal tribe will welcome the Menghuang tribe. The expressions of the three experts of the Menghuang tribe all changed. Their gazes immediately sharpened. The current patriarch of the Menghuang tribe immediately said with a heavy voice, "Patriarch Lore, may I ask what kind of experts you found for you to be so boastful?" The two warriors beside me are both powerful 14-star warriors. Menghuang tribe, do you really think that my Dal tribe is so easy to bully? The patriarch of the Dal tribe said coldly. Hearing that Jianshun and newbies were both 14th-star Poseidon warriors, the three old men of the Menghuang tribe immediately became rather ugly. They had never thought that the Dal tribe would be able to invite experts like that. If the Dal tribe really did have the assistance of two 14-star Poseidon warriors, it would be much more difficult for their Menghuang tribe to devour the newbies tribe. It might even end in failure. The three old men of the Menghuang tribe immediately looked at Jianshun and newbies. The patriarch clasped his hands at the two of them and said, "May I ask for your names, warriors?" Jianshun glanced at the three experts of the Menghuang tribe indifferently. He did not pay much attention to them. He turned to newbies and the patriarch of the Dal tribe and said, "Let's go in. The auction is about to begin." "You're right. The auction is about to begin. There's no need for us to waste time here with the people of the Menghuang tribe. Let's go in first." The patriarch of the Dal tribe immediately obeyed Jianshun. Afterward, the three of them were led away by a female servant. Seeing Jianshun's group leave, the three experts of the Menghuang tribe, who had been ignored, became extremely ugly. They were so gloomy that they were about to drip water. The two mysterious people that the Dal tribe has invited are very powerful. I can't see through them at all, a guardian elder of the Menghuang tribe said.